Chapter 1429. The place where Jiang Tian was now had layers of restrictions left behind by the Golden Crow ancient emperor, but they could not stop Jiang Tian's divine sense. It didn't take long for some words to reach Jiang Tian's ears. Dark River, kneel. This treasure trove belongs to the 100 Moons Academy. Although he couldn't hear them clearly, Jiang Tian could tell that many heroes had gathered in the depths of the valley. Even eccentric Dark River was at a disadvantage. Hey! What a great 100 Moons Academy. I have already arrived in this world and declared its independence. How dare you touch it? Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with killing intent. It didn't matter if Long Pejuan suffered a loss. After all, this kid had just followed him and he wasn't that loyal. However, Old Monster Sticks was Jiang Tian's follower, and he had been diligent in his work over the years. Jiang Tian had already regarded him as one of his own. The people from the 100 Moons Academy dared to attack him. That was the same as touching Jiang Tian's reverse scale. Ah, they've already started? Ao Jiao, Chiliqui and the other girls were all shocked. Someone who could fight Old Freak Sticks must be extraordinary. Let's go. Jiang Tian waved his sleeves and brought everyone away. Following which, with a loud boom, it shot up into the sky and turned into a dazzling black light beam. It was like a long golden rainbow that shot towards the depths of the ancient demon abyss. The rushing current valley had a radius of 10 miles. It was not big. At this moment, tens of thousands of wild demonic beasts had gathered. Under the leadership of Long Pejuan and Old Monster Sticks, they were facing off against the foreign invaders. At this moment, there were already many more foreign guests than there were a day ago. The cultivators were densely packed, numbering in the tens of thousands. It seemed that after the news of the Golden Crow ancient emperor's inheritance had spread, many forces had come. They moved immediately upon hearing the news, wanting to get a share of the loot. The periphery of the treasure was roughly divided into 3 echelons. The first echelon. Of course, they were Wu Shujian and Fairy Yaoyu, the immortal couple, and Ku Mu and the girl in red. Both of them had reached the level of nascent soul. They were either young talents or living fossils. Now, there was another black-robed old woman who was holding the hand of a red-robed boy. Her strength was not much weaker than Patriarch Deadwood's and should be about the same. These 3 forces stood alone in their respective regions and stood against each other as equals. Their auras overflowed into the heavens. Some of their auras were ethereal and dark, some of them were shrouded in light and some of them were shrouded in black light. All around them, their true treasures bloomed with resplendent light. Many family heads, old ancestors and sect elders respectfully sat down. The second echelon was made up of some giants from the North Sea and the Penglai world. The son of the North Sea Blade Emperor from the North Sea, the current sect master of the 9 Cloud Sword sect, Master Su Kong from the Penglai world, Zhang Qingyang from the Tianhuang sect. All of them had extraordinary backgrounds. They were either elites or overlords. They had all reached the peak stage of the Golden Core level or even the Nascent Soul level. These giants of the 3rd level worlds did not dare to compete with Kumu, Wu Shujian and the black-robed old woman. Instead, they went forward and bowed to them, saying that they were willing to follow and cooperate with them. Under their leadership, they would excavate the treasures of the Golden Crow ancient emperor together and drink some leftovers. You eat the meat and I drink the soup. The 3rd echelon was made up of some mysterious rogue cultivators and some old monsters who had lived in seclusion. Many of them hadn't shown up in a long time. Some of them revealed their identities and chose to work with the big shots in front of them. Those cultivators were easier to deal with. There were also some indescribable cultivators that had their faces covered by black magic artifacts as they sat cross-legged in meditation. They didn't say a single word as they watched coldly from the sidelines. Some of them were even hidden in the shadows, but they were obviously accumulating strength and waiting to take action. They wanted to take advantage of the chaos or even seize the treasures, causing everyone to be unable to make heads or tails of them. They were the most unstable factor in this expedition to the treasure trove. Long Pejuan, you're just a beast in human form. How dare you compete with Heavenly Lord Kumu? Do you want to die? The woman in a red outfit was called Lu Fei. She used to be a normal inner disciple of the 100 Moons Academy in the ruins of deity. She wasn't even on the war god list. However, she was naturally charming and was good at dual cultivation. She had obtained endless resources by becoming Chancellor Kumu's woman. Then she had become a nascent soul cultivator and ranked 80th on the war god list. She was an inner elite of the 100 Moons Academy and was even better than Long Xingnan. She had a very high opinion of herself, so of course she didn't think much of someone from a lower realm like Long Pejuan. She was like a noble looking down on a lowly gang leader. It's not a competition. It's just that the old man is the deputy palace lord of the Kangwu Palace in the Yingzhou world. He was asked by Qi Jui to protect the treasures of this world. It's my duty. I have no choice. Long Pejuan seemed to sigh helplessly, but he was actually arguing. The treasures of the Golden Crow ancient emperor belonged to the Yingzhou world in the first place. Outsiders had no right to touch them. He wasn't lying or exaggerating at all. Because they had all followed Jiang Tian, Long Pejuan and the many violent demonic beasts and the Blue Parasol Palace's Qi family, two forces that had fought for thousands of years, had already made peace. Realm Lord Qi Jui had also invited him to become the Vice Palace Master of the Blue Parasol Palace. Who does Qi Jui think he is? Even if he came here personally, he would have to leave if I told him to. If you don't leave, I'll kill you, Lu Fei said with disdain. They came from a level 2 world and even had the right to join the 100 Moons Academy. They were high up and looked down on the other worlds like gods. Why would they care about ants from the lower worlds? Long Pejuan didn't say anything and just smiled. He didn't use Jiang Tian's name to pressure them. He thought that Jiang Tian was still at the point of breaking through and was at his weakest. If he exposed himself, they might surround and kill Jiang Tian first. That would be troublesome. Even though he was cruel and heartless, he was also very cunning. He didn't want to offend Jiang Tian before he showed up. I'm going to take the treasures of the Golden Crow. If you want to fight for it, I don't mind crushing you with my bare hands. The old woman in a black robe said viciously. Next to her was a 7 or 8-year-old child in a red outfit. He was eating candied haws casually and said arrogantly, "Yes, it's all mine." This old woman was a living fossil of a heavenly sect from the ocean wave world. Her name was Qin Shuang. She was an experienced nascent soul cultivator and was invincible when it came to the restrictions of the Frost River. She had once dominated the ocean wave world and was even able to fight with Long Baxia. Her aura alone seemed to be able to suppress thousands of soldiers and horses, as if those violent monsters were just ants that she could crush with a wave of her hand. She stared at Old Monster Nether River and Long Pejuan and said coldly, "Get out of my way or I'll start a massacre." "Old man, I'm not convinced." Old Monster Nether River was furious. He took a step forward and only said a few words, but they were filled with an unyielding fighting spirit. He, Old Monster Nether River, used to be the sect master of the Netherworld sect in the Northern Sea world. He was a realm lord back then and his words carried weight. Yet Ocean Wave and the Immortal Ruins experts had banished him and replaced him with the North Sea Saber Emperor, who took everything from the Northern Sea world like an emperor treating his slaves. He was not convinced. "Why, you, the Ruins Emperor, are the outsider, the invader. This place originally belonged to the natives of ancient Earth. All the resources here belong to us. You're not convinced? Fine." The black-robed old woman Qin Shuang chuckled. All of a sudden she unleashed a palm attack. Kill. Old Monster Nether River's law of the Netherworld burst out, forming a forbidden zone that stretched across the sky and wrapped around Qin Shuang. Old Monster Mingi was very strong, but the black-robed old woman Qin Shuang was even stronger. She was comparable to Patriarch Deadwood. Therefore his netherworld restriction was instantly frozen and covered with white frost. It could no longer unleash any lethality. Bang! Old Monster Nether River was slapped to the ground, creating a huge gully. His body was almost shattered. Everyone was shocked. Many of the violent demon beasts were trembling in fear and whining in pain. Children fight. Long Pejuan let out a bitter laugh that was filled with despair and sorrow. Suddenly he took out a purple Tyrannosaurus spear. It pierced through the void and stabbed at Qin Shuang, trying to rescue Old Monster Nether River. A great battle immediately broke out. Chapter 1430. This was a fierce battle. Thousands of beasts roared and ran, shaking the heavens and the earth. Beasts flapped their wings and slashed down like blades. Qin Shuang's restrictions were activated and frost filled the sky. Lu Fei's sword qi was like a river, killing thousands of soldiers with one attack. Blood stained the sky and roars were like thunder. Screams pierced through the clouds and the sword qi spread for 300 miles. Giant corpses were piled up on the red ground. The violent beasts were very powerful, especially their bodies. They could even fight with the dragons of the Kangwu Palace and Aofeng for a few thousand years. But they were facing the overlords from the ruins of deity, the elites of the 100 Moon Academy and many helpers. 20 minutes later, blood stained the ground in the rushing current valley. Countless corpses piled up like mountains and covered the entire valley. Even the mist in the sky was dyed red, like a beautiful morning glow. On this day, a total of 1,342 demonic beasts above the Jindan stage were crushed into meat paste. Countless demonic beasts of the building foundation stage died. But none of them, including Long Pajuan, retreated. Violent beasts had low intelligence and were bloodthirsty, so they weren't liked by humans. But there was one rule. Once they recognized a master, they were extremely loyal and didn't fear death. Moreover, their sense of community was very strong. They advanced and retreated together, unlike human cultivators who deceived each other and harbored ulterior motives. Long Pajuan and Old Monster Acheron lay on the ground, severely injured. Their clothes were tattered and their dharma artifacts were broken. Blood gushed out and their bones were broken. Fight. We can only fight. This land and the treasures belong to our master. We'll protect it even if we die 10,000 times. We won't surrender. However, they still had to support themselves and stand up. Their eyes shone with an ominous glint and their blood surged like a tide. Their battle intent surged as they wanted to fight against the universe again. These two old men are like rocks in the toilet. They're smelly and hard. I'll kill them. Lu Fei snorted coldly. Her pretty face was full of viciousness and murderous intent. She approached the two people who were already seriously injured. That girl is the most beautiful girl in the 100 Moon Academy. Have you ever gotten close to her? Yao Yu Fairy turned around and looked at the sexy Lu Fei. A hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes. Hehe. I wholeheartedly pursue the Tao. What I pursue is a supreme realm, to become a god in the mortal world. Ordinary women are not in my eyes. Wu Shujian didn't make a move from the beginning to the end. He watched everything with cold eyes and preserved his strength. Brother Shujian is indeed extraordinary. You didn't let me down. Fairy Yao Yu looked at his handsome side profile and sensed his otherworldly aura. He was like a divine king from the 9 heavens. She couldn't help but be mesmerized. Brother Shujian was probably the brightest star in the starry sky. Right at this moment, a sharp clang was heard. A saber light that pierced through heaven and earth suddenly lit up. It was like a meteor streaking across the endless dark sky. Lu Fei let out a blood-curdling scream. Her merciless longsword that was slashing down at old freak Mingi, which was enough to split mountains and split the earth, actually exploded inch by inch. Then she flew out like a rag doll with the broken sword in her hand. She crashed into a mountain wall and blasted a huge hole in it. After the saber light flashed, a voice as cold as the cold wind from hell suddenly sounded. How dare you kill my servant? Then everyone's eyes trembled. In the end, everyone's gazes converged on the distant horizon. They saw a black rainbow with a long tail piercing through the air. The black streak of light came to a stop. A young man in black clothes, black hair, black eyes, and a cold gaze stood proudly in the air like a peerless god king, and he looked down at everyone. Everyone was shocked. Isn't that the rogue cultivator Mrs. Su hired? Why is he still alive? And he's so powerful? Quasi-heavenly Lord Wan Du, Grand Perfected Cultivator White Crane, Perfected Cultivator Red Tiger and Jian Kuang were dumbfounded. They knew they were no match for the 9-headed phoenix and the mystic snake when they saw them. Originally, Xiaochen thought that Jiang Tian and Qiliqui would definitely be finished, devoured by the demonic beasts. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian appeared here in one piece. Lu Fei was a nascent soul cultivator and ranked 80th on the God of War roll, but she couldn't withstand his true essence. How was he so powerful? An overlord? He's just a golden core cultivator. Even Elder Ku Mu suddenly opened his eyes. After scanning Jiang Tian's body, he revealed a look of disdain and closed his eyes. The old woman Qin Shuang also glanced at Jiang Tian, then turned to Patriarch Deadwood and sent him a message with her divine sense. Old man, your woman is being beaten. Aren't you going to do anything? Aren't you known as a dissolute old thief who loves women a lot? He's just an ant. He's not worth my time. Ancestral Patriarch Ku Mu sneered and shook his head. That's Kong Techu. Fairy Yao Yu's eyes flashed with wariness as she asked Wu Shujian, "Big brother Shujian, what should we do?" "Let's just wait and see." Wu Shujian's eyes were deep and unrestrained. He casually played chess and bathed in the warm spring water. With a calm expression, he transmitted his voice. "If he wants to fight with Lu Fei and the dead tree, wouldn't that be letting us off easy?" "Brother Shujian, who do you think will win?" Yao Yu Fairy asked. "Kong Teichu is indeed strong. But it depends on who he's competing with." Wu Shujian, an outstanding talent from the fertile earth world, gently tapped a chess piece on the chessboard. His face was as calm as an ancient well. He sent a telepathic message. "In the ruins of immortality, the ruins Emperor's palace is the center of power. Many of the ruins Emperor's children are in charge. The emperors and princes all listen to the ruins Emperor directly. They have unparalleled power and control many affairs in many worlds. The Golden Crow Guards are an investigation and intelligence organization. They are the eyes and ears of the ruins Emperor. Sky Palace is an organization that studies the weather and spirit qi in the galaxy, as well as explores other cultivators. It's just a name, but it's the weakest." A solemn expression flashed across his face as he said, "As for the 100 Moon Academy, it helps the ruins Emperor select and train cultivators. It has many talents and experts. The cultivators of the ruins Emperor's palace, the minions of the Golden Crow Guards, and the Grand Priests of Sky Palace are all trained by them. Do you really think that Ku Mu, this old man, is as simple as a veteran Yuanine cultivator being able to become a chancellor there? Does he really not have any skills? It can be said that Kong Teichu is an extreme person, and Ku Mu and the others think highly of themselves so they can only fight. It can be said that Kong Teichu's ending was destined the moment he came here. He can only die. An elite of a generation is going to die like this. Sad, pitiful and regretful." Fairy Yao Yu shook her head and sighed. When Jiang Tian rose, he was extremely talented and swept across the multidimensional worlds in the solar system. In the Star World, he defeated the Jade Lake Expedition Army and captured Princess Long Yanan. In the Qi world, he killed Ancestral Patriarch Rhinoceros and 4 other nascent soul heavenly lords. He was so famous that it even spread to the South Gate twin stars. No one had expected him to cross galaxies and go all the way to the Dragon Gate world. Under heavy siege, he crushed the Jade Lake Realm Lord Emperor Qinqing and captured Long Xingnan alive. He killed more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords, shocking many worlds. By then, the news had spread to the ruins of deity in many other worlds. Even the Emperor of the Ruins would have heard about it, but he could only die when facing Heavenly Lord Ku Mu. Only Wu Shujian and Fairy Yao Yu knew what the cultivation sects of the ruins of deity meant and how powerful the 100 Moons Academy was. The nascent soul cultivators from the low-level worlds like Emperor Qinqing, Long Xingnan and Long Luo couldn't compare with them. Even though Ku Mu also came from a second-level desert world, he joined the 100 Moons Academy later. He was the chancellor appointed by the Emperor of the Ruins. Countless nascent soul cultivators and nascent soul cultivators had been trained by him, so he must have a powerful cultivation sect with earth-shattering power. It wouldn't be difficult for him to fight against dozens of Emperor Qinqing. However, if Kong Teichu is at a disadvantage, we can also help. His sword is very good, very good. Wu Shujian looked calm, but there was a glint of greed in his eyes. Chapter 1431. That sword was too powerful. He had never seen such a good sword before. It seemed to be able to slice through the skies and cut through the sun, moon and stars. Wu Shujian had no doubt that if he could obtain Jiang Tian's sword and successfully refine it, his combat strength would increase by 10 or even 100 times and he would be able to compete with Qing Aojuan, Luo Chongshan and the other elites on the War Emperor leaderboard. He would not be too far away from Chunyu, Xiahe, Qiuming and the other princes and princesses of the Ruins Emperor's palace. Although many people were talking through voice transmissions, nobody said anything on the surface. Jiang Tian could not be bothered to check their spirit consciousnesses. He would kill anyone who dared to stop him regardless of their schemes. Only Quasi-Heavenly Lord 10,000 Poison, Grand Perfected Lord White Crane, Perfected Lord Red Tiger and Jian Kuang were ignorant of Jiang Tian's strength and exclaimed. Therefore when Jiang Tian's cold gaze landed on them, strands of cold murderous intent slowly bloomed. Do you really want me to die? Jiang Tian's face turned cold as he questioned. He did not have a good impression of those people. They were different from Perfected Lord Black Gull who was used as cannon fodder by Madame Su. They were originally experts of Kangwu Palace and were worshipped by the Qi family. Qi was also respectful to them and treated them wholeheartedly. As the saying goes, if you take someone's money, you have to take care of that person's calamity. They've obtained great benefits, so they ought to have fulfilled their duties. But at the critical moment they actually disregarded the life and death of their master, abandoning their master and fleeing. Such betrayal caused Zhang Tian to feel extreme contempt in his heart. Cough cough. That's not what I meant. I was just a little surprised. Perfected Lord Red Tiger coughed awkwardly and there was some wariness in his eyes. Why should I be afraid of him? He's just a golden core itinerant cultivator. He only sneaked up on me shamelessly. Otherwise how could he be a match for Miss Lu Fei? Quasi-Heavenly Lord 10,000 Poison looked at Zhang Tian with disdain and malice in his eyes. It seemed that this kid had obtained the immortal divine herb. He must be highly regarded by the Qi family and would compete with him for the position of the state tutor of this world. It was best to eliminate him. This kid might not be that strong, but even if he was, he wouldn't be able to walk out of here alive. No matter what, Lu Fei was Patriarch Deadwood's woman and he was a veteran nascent soul cultivator whose power was close to that of a soul formation cultivator. How dare you provoke his woman? Where did this trash come from? How dare you attack me? It was not until 10 seconds later that Lu Fei finally came to her senses. With blood on the corner of her mouth, she soared into the air and faced Zhang Tian. She furrowed her brows and shouted angrily. She was very flirtatious and good at using men. Apart from Elder Deadwood, there were other male cultivators who had sex with her. Therefore, although her talent was average and her Taoist heart was not strong enough, she still obtained many cultivation resources. In the 100 Moon Academy he was like a fish in water. Now that he was on the God of War list he was even stronger than Long Xingnan. Such a growth experience naturally nurtured her proud and arrogant personality. In her eyes, a desolate world like Yingzhou was like a remote village. When she saw the cultivators here she was like a city dweller looking at a country bumpkin. Even Qi Jui couldn't enter her eyes. Who do you think you are? Zhang Tian grunted and said with disdain as if he were looking at an ant. I'll give you half an hour to arrange your funeral and then kill yourself to apologize to my servant. Otherwise you won't even have a complete corpse. I'll destroy your body and soul. Old freak Mingi immediately took out a piece of incense, lit it and stuck it into the ground. Kid, you're so arrogant. Lu Fei wanted nothing more than to chop Zhang Tian into pieces. Her originally beautiful and charming face had become hideous and twisted. However, she didn't act rashly. She felt that Zhang Tian's finger aura was extremely powerful and she couldn't figure out Zhang Tian's background. Although she relied on her beauty and was very arrogant, she wasn't a brainless person. She rose from the bottom and experienced everything. In fact, she was a lot more cautious than normal cultivators. She was even more cautious than Long Xingnan. Lu Fei, he has at least half of the immortal divine medicine. Suddenly, the half-heavenly lord of all things sent an immortal will to Lu Fei and Ku Mu. The Deadwood monarch was too powerful. When he came to this world he was like a leader coming to inspect the countryside. His words carried enormous weight. He supported Qijio to become the Grand Preceptor and Qijio didn't even dare to say a word. Friends of Yingzhou, help me take him down. I won't mistreat you. Lu Fei said with her immortal will as if Zhang Tian wasn't worthy of her help. In fact, she was still cautious. She wanted to observe Zhang Tian's power and figure out Zhang Tian's background. Kid, give me your immortal divine medicine. Jian Kuang had a fiery temper. He took a step forward and shouted loudly. Count me in. It's an honor for us cultivators to work for Lu Fei. Grand Perfected Lord White Crane wore a feather robe and a star crown. Its bloodline erupted as its white-feathered Dharma idol burst forth from its back like a crane dancing in the sky. He took out his true artifact and held the crane beak in his left hand, which was flashing with cold light. He held the Vajra claw in his right hand. Zhang Tian, I'll give you 10 seconds to throw away your storage Dharma artifact and die. Otherwise, this old man won't mind turning you into a pool of blood. Little Heavenly Lord 10,000 Poison's eyes flashed with green light and colorful poisonous energy surged around him. A drop of it was enough to kill a normal golden core cultivator. Hey, why do you have to do this? Everything is just a misunderstanding. Perfected Cultivator Red Tiger didn't look fierce. Instead, he was extremely terrifying. He stood still and broke out in cold sweat. His instinct told him that Kong Teichu wasn't someone to be trifled with. This brat is bound to be dealt with by Lu Fei in the future. He'll be deader than dead. Everyone was sure that Jiang Tian would lose and that perfected cultivator Red Tiger would also be killed by Lu Fei. I'm here to rob, but I haven't robbed you yet, and you dare to rob me? Who gave you the courage? Jiang Tian snorted. His eyes were cold and emotionless as he made his move. A dazzling golden saber radiance spread out and swept across a radius of 1 mile, slashing towards Jian Kuang and the others. What? An itinerant cultivator without any foundation dares to attack me. Violent Dharma sword. Jian Kuang was enraged and let out a thunderous roar. His dantian rumbled and his golden core exploded. One by one, large swords as large as doors appeared in the air, overlapping one another in the air. Every single one of these magic swords were condensed and sharp, and their killing intent was extremely wild and violent. Bolts of lightning shot out explosively around the bodies of the swords, and thunderbolts exploded out. They possessed the ability to chop down mountains and sweep through the surroundings, and they wanted to block Jiang Tian's gung gold blade light. But everything was useless. Jiang Tian had reached phenomenal success in his gung metal immortal body, and the true seal formed by the gung metal law was unimaginably powerful. He was only using true essence at the moment, not dharma laws. But the gung metal true essence was also extremely condensed and was more than 10 times more powerful than before. With a sharp sound, the many violent magic swords of the sword maniac were cut apart by the gung metal saber light like a hot knife cutting butter, and then exploded uncontrollably. The blade aura of gung metal didn't stop after cutting the dharma swords. It slashed his body in half, and even his golden core was cut open. In a blink, his body was smashed into pieces by the exploding golden core. She killed a golden core perfected cultivator with one slash. How can she be so powerful? Seeing this, myriad poison half-step perfected cultivator looked as if he was facing a great enemy. He had just taken out a true weapon poison banner with countless venomous insect patterns on it, shrouded in layers of poisonous smoke. The gung metal saber light had already shot down like a bolt of lightning from the sky, and it easily chopped off his head. His entire skull was sent flying, and white brain matter and fresh blood stained the sky, and it was a ghastly sight. His body fell down, but a miniature golden core flew out from his head. That golden core looked a lot like him. It couldn't move its limbs and its eyes were closed, but it could already fly. That was the golden core of a nascent soul cultivator. The golden core was already in the shape of a baby, but it hadn't completely merged with the blood, immortal will and other soul energy. Before the nascent soul could fly a few meters, it was immediately cut into pieces by the surging golden saber aura. Then it exploded with a loud bang. Only grand perfected cultivator White Crane, who had the ancient crane bloodline, turned into a white light and escaped in a flash, barely managing to survive. However, his injuries were not light. The 2 mid-grade true weapons in his hands were shattered into countless pieces. Countless feathers were minced into pieces by the golden gung blade light. He couldn't even condense the wings of his dharma idol. They flickered dimly and collapsed to the extreme. He was so scared that his whole body trembled. He was dumbfounded and looked as if he was about to go crazy. That guy's slash is so terrifying. He's a nascent soul heavenly lord. At this moment, countless people cried out in surprise. They were dumbstruck and shocked to the extreme. Chapter 1432. Jiang Tian had killed a golden core perfected cultivator and a half-heavenly lord. Even though grand perfected cultivator White Crane was dead, it wasn't any better. The key point was that Jiang Tian killed too casually. He didn't even use his Jin Dan or Dharma power. He killed his opponent with a wave of his hand. It was terrifying. Clatter clatter clatter. He's a nascent soul overlord. Perfected cultivator Red Tiger's teeth chattered. He also wanted to rush forward, but he stopped himself at the last moment. If he had been a little impulsive, he would have been dead by now. Hundreds of years of cultivation would have been destroyed in a day. How dare you kill people in front of us? You're asking for death. Lu Fei was enraged. Even though those cultivators from Yingzhou were nothing in her eyes, she had already subdued them and they were her dogs. As the saying went, one had to look at the owner before beating a dog. Jiang Tian killing those cultivators was a great provocation to her. Half an hour will be up soon. Aren't you going to make arrangements for your funeral? Zhang Tian flicked his fingers with a calm expression, as if he had just killed two famous cultivators of the Yingzhou state, as if he were crushing ants. Who are you, my friend? Lu Fei was about to lose her temper when Lord Kumu suddenly spoke. His eyes were glittering as he asked in surprise. This kid is interesting. Even the old woman Qin Shuang raised her eyes and sized Zhang Tian up. You don't deserve to know my name. Zhang Tian showed an indifferent expression and his tone was cold. Unexpectedly, he did not even care about the Deadwood sovereign. Everyone was startled. This kid is asking for death. Many cultivators shook their heads. He was a living fossil from a second-level world, the Grand Chancellor of the 100 Moons Academy. When he came to this world, he was like a god. No matter how strong you were, you didn't have the qualifications to fight against him. Just as Brother Shujian expected. Kong Teichu is really going to fight with Heavenly Lord Kumu. Yao Yu Fairy covered her mouth and chuckled. Jiang Taichu is a lowly commoner that rose to prominence in a desolate world, and he's experienced too much suffering and suppression. Everything he possesses now was obtained through fighting and slaughter. As the saying goes, the edge of a treasured sword is sharpened, and his Dao heart has become even more tenacious after being tempered by boundless suffering. Wu Shujian's robe fluttered in the wind. He looked like a scholar who didn't regret his moves. He said with a smile, Heavenly Lord Kumu is only a second-rate cultivator in the ruins of deity, but he used to be the Chancellor of the 100 Moon Academy. He has a high position and he thinks highly of himself. How can he be disrespectful to him? So, there must be a battle between them. Indeed. Impudent brat. How arrogant. Dried Wood Lord of Heaven's face suddenly turned cold. His eyes shot out bolts of cold lightning and a thunderclap exploded in the void. You are just a small cultivator from the Yingzhou world, a poor peasant. What right do you have to challenge me? Why? Because my master is Kong Teichu. Then ancestral patriarch Mingyi shouted furiously. Because he's a nascent soul cultivator who killed more than 20 heavenly lords. Why? Is my master not qualified to fight with you? I'll twist your head off and kick it like a ball. Long Pajuan stood behind Zhang Tian with his hands on his hips as he roared. Just now he was humiliated to the extreme by Lu Fei. He called him a bastard and an ant. She mocked him to the extreme. But then Zhang Tian had arrived. He immediately felt that he had someone to rely on and that it was time for him to hold his head high. At that moment he finally understood why Ao Feng was willing to follow Zhang Taichu despite not being afraid of the Ruins Emperor despite being so stubborn. He was so loyal that his heart was like a boulder. Because Kong Teichu had a bottom line. In his world, people were either enemies or comrades. There was no slavery, oppression and humiliation. Once you followed him wholeheartedly, he would treat you as an equal and give you basic respect. He would even give you a lot of resources. But the cultivators of the ruins of deity weren't like that. They only controlled and enslaved. There was no equality and no freedom. Lu Fei was just a toy of Heavenly Lord Kumu, but she thought highly of herself as if she were a superior god. Kongti. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone's expressions were interesting. Some were frightened, some were scrutinizing, some were disdainful and some were gloating. What? He's Kong Teichu. Then perfected cultivator Red Tiger was shocked and regretful. I abandoned him and Princess Li Qi to follow that old bastard Wandu? If he had followed Jiang Tian, he would have at least been able to get the divine medicine of immortality and leave unscathed. Even a root would have been a great blessing. After listening to Wandu's persuasion, he went to the Tang Valley to explore the treasures. But he had never thought that he would be surrounded. Clatter, clatter, clatter. It's over. I can't believe I'm in his hands. The North Sea Blade Prince's teeth chattered and his face turned pale. Even his father had been killed by Jiang Tian. He was no match for him. He was worried that Jiang Tian would kill him. No wonder. No wonder he's so arrogant. He has the right to be arrogant. Zhang Qingyang, the Zongzi of the Heaven Baron sect from Penglai, suddenly realized something. He was also a genius in a level 3 world, but compared to Jiang Tian he was extremely mediocre. After all, Jiang Tian had suppressed his master Ao Tianjianjin. And he had killed more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords on the 18 islands. He made a prompt decision, bowed deeply to Jiang Tian and sent a voice transmission. I came here to explore the treasures because I wanted to give them to the Taichu Heavenly Lord. Since the Heavenly Lord is here, I don't dare to fight. I can only support him. Seeing Jiang Tian calmly glance at him and slightly nod his head, Zhang Qingyang felt as if he had been pardoned. After bowing again, he quickly led the many experts of the Heaven Baron sect out of the circle and watched from the sidelines. He's really fast. Kong Teichu might not win. This time Heavenly Lord Deadwood and Senior Qin Shuang are here. Master Void, the Lord of Penglai, was wearing a Tai Chi 8 trigrams robe. His face was like jade and his eyes were like stars. Seeing the Heaven Baron sect leave, he sneered. It could be said that heavenly lords like Deadwood and Qin Shuang, who had traveled to the ruins of deity, had peerless cultivation arts and were too powerful. Even 20 normal heavenly lords together were no match for them. Kong Teichu? What's so great about him? He can only suffer when he meets Chancellor Deadwood. Lu Fei mumbled softly, but her eyes were full of fear. Her body swayed and she hid behind Heavenly Lord Deadwood. At this time, Ancestral Patriarch Takong also arrived with Qi Liqui, Long Xingnan, Bai Zai and the others. They stood behind Jiang Tian with murderous intent and shouted fiercely. The old dragon that the big black dog had transformed into also jumped up and down. Who dares to be enemies with me, the Taichu Heavenly Lord? You have to get past me first. Ancestral Patriarch Takong's energy was ethereal like that of an immortal, but his roar was like thunder. He was full of fighting spirit and his blood was boiling. Like Mingyi and Aofeng, he had a blood feud with the worlds of the ruins of deity and had been bullied and killed. At this time, when enemies met, their eyes were especially red. Murderous intent rose to the sky and swept in all directions. The inheritance of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor has always belonged to the Yingzhou world. Cultivators from other regions are not allowed to touch it, or they'll be killed without mercy. Qi Liqui also stepped forward and shouted with a frown. She expressed her thoughts and made her attitude clear. She had always sympathized with the Dragon Gate world and was unwilling to submit to the ruins of deity and Hylon. Previously, she couldn't disobey her father's orders. At this moment, she could finally follow Jiang Tian to fight against the cultivators from other regions. Her heart was surging and her blood was boiling. Fuck, a bunch of aliens. Do you know that I came out to rob aliens and conquer the Sea of Stars? Bai Zai's eyes were arrogant. He had a wild mentality and his thoughts were boundless. He was the most excited when he fought the Southern Gate twin stars. So many golden cores. My lord, don't be too cruel. Crush them all. Keep them to make pills. I want spicy ones. The big black dog's saliva flowed. He looked at everyone greedily and licked Jiang Tian's wrist. This made everyone's hair stand. It was as if a prehistoric monster was staring at them and wanted to turn them into food. Chapter 1433. Chancellor Deadwood from 100 Moons Academy and the living fossil of Spirit Vulture Palace in Billow's world, Qin Shuang. Although the two of them are from a second-grade world, they have reached the pinnacle of the ruins of immortality and are very powerful. This will be an astounding battle. Kong Teichu might not win. Long Xingnan did not say a word, but her body trembled slightly. It revealed her nervousness and unease. She obviously hoped that they would kill Jiang Tian so that she could regain her freedom. However, she had once been captured by Jiang Tian. Would Heavenly Lord Deadwood spare her? Would the Ruins Emperor spare her? Long Xingnan, you have once received the teachings of 100 Moons Academy. You should have infinite love, loyalty, reverence and faith for His Majesty, the Ruins Emperor. You should have committed suicide immediately after being captured by the enemy. Indeed, Lu Fei was the first to notice Long Xingnan. Her cute face was filled with contempt and contempt. She ground her teeth and sneered. But you actually lost your integrity in order to preserve your life. You willingly became Kong Teichu's lackey. You deserve to die. When I return to the ruins of immortality, I'll definitely submit a memorial to the Ruins Emperor's palace and expose your misdeeds. I'll get the Ruins Emperor's palace to give the order to completely annihilate you and the Black Dragon sect. Fairy Lu Fei, please listen. Long Xingnan felt a chill in her heart as fine beads of cold sweat appeared on her smooth forehead. Then she cupped her fists and pleaded earnestly. My loyalty is paramount. I will never forget His Majesty's grace. I'm willing to shed my last drop of blood for him. Of course, I'm not afraid of death. However, I wish to persuade Kong Teichu to accept the edict. Therefore, I have never committed suicide. Humph. Lu Fei snorted lightly and did not speak further. She had a look of contempt as though Long Xingnan's death was certain. Good. So it's Kang Teichu. Heavenly Lord Deadwood chuckled. I should have guessed that it was you. Who else but you can be old Freak Styx's master in these worlds? A mere ant from a lower realm. Do you think you're impressive just because you killed a few nascent souls? In front of this old man you'll always be an ant. Master Void, the North Sea Saber Prince, the 9-Cloud Sword Sect Master Wenyin Elder Perfected Cultivator and the others smiled, thinking that Heavenly Lord Deadwood was going to kill Zhang Tian. You're not worthy of this old man taking action. Patriarch Deadwood sneered and said, Master Void Dao Prince Wenyin, all of you attack together and kill this kid for me. Master Void's face was filled with shock and disbelief. What a joke. Kang Teichu is known as the super executioner of nascent soul stage cultivators. We are just at the peak of the gold core stage and the strongest is at the nascent soul stage. Aren't you asking us to go to our deaths? I, Master Void, am the master of a world in the Penglai world. My words carry enormous weight and billions of creatures worship me. But in the eyes of Elder Deadwood of the upper realm, they are nothing more than ants that can be sacrificed at any time. But he immediately understood and his heart was filled with bitterness and sorrow. Patriarch Deadwood certainly knew they weren't a match for Qin Fan. But in the end Patriarch Deadwood didn't care about their lives. He just wanted them to exhaust Zhang Tian's power. When Zhang Tian showed signs of exhaustion, Patriarch Deadwood would attack and he would have a 100% chance of killing Zhang Tian. Ancestral Patriarch, you're an unparalleled Heavenly Lord. You can kill Kang Teichu with just a finger. Why do you need us? An elder of the Penglai sect who was also a peak stage golden core cultivator, trembled and his pale face was filled with fear and reluctance. How dare you disobey my order? Patriarch Deadwood's face was expressionless as he pointed at the sky. There was a loud bang. The elder's body exploded and before he could even let out a scream, he had turned into a rain of sparkling flesh and blood. Even his gold core and divine soul had disappeared. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. I just want to give everyone a chance to train. At your level, you can only train your Dao heart through a life and death battle to stimulate yourself and take the last step to become a Heavenly Lord. Patriarch Deadwood looked very sincere with an expression that said, I'm doing this for your own good, but his eyes were filled with viciousness. Everyone realized that if they refused he would definitely kill them and they would end up the same as that elder of the Heaven Baron sect. With Ancestral Patriarch here, what do we have to be afraid of? Let's not waste Patriarch Deadwood's kindness. Let's attack together and kill Kang Teichu. The Ruins Emperor will definitely reward you handsomely. You might even be able to join the 100 Moons Academy. The most pitiful one was Master Void. He knew Patriarch Deadwood's true goal, but he still had to fool everyone. Deadwood, you coward. You don't dare to fight me, yet you still find so many excuses. Zhang Tian laughed as he looked at Patriarch Deadwood with disdain. He then said coldly, Master Void, you're all fools. Child of Void, all of you are being used as cannon fodder but you do not know it. You are willing to sacrifice your lives for others and yet, you still wish to receive the Ruins Emperor's grace. It's as though you have been betrayed. Since you want to die, I don't mind sending you on your way. He was domineering and had the bearing of a peerless powerhouse. He waved his sleeves and ordered, Bai Zai Takong Mingi Black Dog, kill them all. Kill them until they go crazy from fear. Master, we're willing to fight. Patriarch Takong had the bloodline of the Kun Peng. His sleeves fluttered and his aura was ethereal like an immortal's, as if he was about to ascend. However, his fighting spirit was extremely vigorous and his killing intent surged. He shouted like a peerless general. Today we'll flatten the rushing current valley and sweep through the army. We'll let them know that our master is invincible and has no weak soldiers under his command. Old Monster Mingi also stepped into the air and came to the battlefield. He summoned the Nether Dharma form and said sinisterly, Today we'll massacre all of you. Leave no one alive. Kill them all. No need to talk nonsense. Bai Zai led the way. His eyes were full of disdain. He dreamed of conquering the Sea of Stars and longed for a great battle. I want to fight too. Long Pajuan wasn't called by Zhang Tian, but he volunteered. He was full of killing intent and wanted to take revenge. Today the Berserk Monstrous Beast clan had suffered heavy losses. Leave your golden cores to me. The large black dog snickered. This guy hid behind everyone. He liked to launch sneak attacks and take advantage of the situation when others were in the middle of a fight. He was very wretched. Patriarch Takong stared at Master Void with hatred written in his eyes. Master Void, I've been waiting for you for a long time. In the past he was a big shot in the Penglai world. However, because he opposed the Ruins Emperor's invasion of the Earth Realm and had disagreements with Master Void, he was surrounded and expelled. The foundation of his clan and sect was destroyed and countless descendants died. He was heavily injured and painfully lost everything. He could only take refuge in the Thunder Lake realm and endure hundreds of years of loneliness. Takong, I might not be Kong Teichu's opponent, but can't I kill you, a loser? Turn into minced meat. Master Void took the lead and led everyone to charge forward. This time many cultivators joined in. There were at least a dozen of them and none of them were weak. They were all geniuses or magnates. Both sides used their ultimate techniques and immediately attacked each other. Violent fluctuations spread out in all directions and many powerful cultivators died. Die. Master Void's Dantian rumbled and a green seal flew out and suppressed everyone. This was an upper-grade true artifact level seal called the Void Seal. It was refined by an ancient sage by cutting off a mountain. It contained laws and was extremely powerful. The moment this seal appeared, it immediately emitted thousands of rays of light that were dazzling to the eyes. With a loud bang, it became bigger and turned into a several hundred zhang tall mountain. It was several times heavier than an ordinary mountain. It carried the force of 10,000 Jun as it rushed towards Ancestor Takong to kill him. Many years ago, Patriarch Takong was defeated by this seal. His bones and tendons were broken and his body was shattered. But now he was not afraid. Instead he showed some contempt. Boom, boom, in the earth-shattering sound the air exploded and everything within a radius of 10 miles trembled. The Seal of Void smashed through the air, its speed extremely fast. The battle immediately broke out. Bai Zhe and Old Monster Mingi joined the battle and fought with the magnates of Northern Sea and Penglai. Bang! The ground shook and a huge crater of a few miles was smashed into the ground where Patriarch Takong was standing. It was like a basin. That old bastard is dead for sure. Master Void revealed a smug smile. He believed that Patriarch Takong must have died an unnatural death. Where is he? However, when he scanned with his divine sense he was shocked. There was no trace of Patriarch Takong under the seal. At this moment he noticed that the numerous cultivators that were spectating the battle had their eyes wide open as they looked behind him with horrified expressions. I'm here. A voice that sounded like a demon from hell sounded behind him. Master Void's heart tightened and he was about to turn around. However, he didn't expect Patriarch Takong to be even faster. Whoosh! With an ear-piercing sound, a flying sword had already pierced his dantian. Then his golden core was sucked out by the other party. Chapter 1434. When did your speed become so fast? Master Void staggered and almost fell to the ground. Blood spurted out from the corner of his mouth and his face was filled with disbelief. I became the disciple of the Taichu Heavenly Lord and reached the nascent soul level a long time ago. You can rest in peace now. Ancestral Patriarch Takong slashed mercilessly. Waves of blood spurted out from Master Void's neck like a fountain and his head was sent flying. His body fell to the ground. Kill! The Saber Prince of the North Sea charged at Bai Zhe. His saber attack was world-shaking. Layers upon layers of saber radiance surged like a tide, covering the sky and covering the earth. It poured down like a sea of saber radiance, making it impossible to guard against. You're too weak. Bai Zhe snorted coldly and threw out a punch. A huge Bai Zhe divine beast Dharma idol appeared behind him. Boom. No one could describe the power of this punch. A shadow of a fist shot up from Bai Zhe's fist into the sky. Like a torpedo splitting the waves, it opened up a path in the ocean of blade light. It pushed all the way to thousands of feet away and hit the blade light of the North Sea. Boom. This peerless saber was instantly shattered into countless pieces. Following this, the Saber Prince let out a cry of agony. He flew backwards in the air. His body, which was covered in golden armor and exuded an immortal and indestructible aura, let out a series of crackling sounds. His bones shattered inch by inch and then his golden core exploded. In the end, his body exploded uncontrollably. Brother, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Let's get to know each other better. Meanwhile, Old Monster Mingi rushed towards the sect master of the Nine Shao Sword sect. Perfected Cultivator Wentian's face turned pale and his body trembled. He smiled and begged for mercy. Brother, why do you have to do this? We don't have any grudges. Have you forgotten that I treated you to a meal a few hundred years ago? Since you're standing on this battlefield, we're mortal enemies. Old monster Mingi was covered in blood, but he was merciless. Perfected Cultivator Wentian lost all his vitality and turned into a corpse, falling to the ground. Long Pijuan's eyes turned red. He had gone crazy from the battle and too many wild beasts had died, which made him extremely angry. The purple violent dragon spear in his hand swept across the sky and pierced through the dantian of a golden core perfected cultivator. With a flick of his spear, this person was reduced to a rain of flesh and blood. This is too scary. Every one of them is so powerful. We are no match for him. Retreat. When the cultivators saw this, they were scared out of their wits and fled in all directions. Even Lu Fei was shocked and in disbelief. Only Heavenly Monarch Deadwood, Qin Shuang, and Wu Shujian managed to maintain their composure. Still want to run? Long Pijuan's spear smashed down like a giant rod and the 3 golden core perfected cultivators exploded in the air. They turned into mush and blood rained down. A giant ditch a few miles long appeared on the ground. It was a shocking sight. Don't be afraid, don't run. If you become my human pet, I will spare your life and treat you well. The large black dog darted around the battlefield like a bolt of black lightning, wanting to subdue a few great cultivators. However, they didn't listen to him and were also killed by the large black dog with a swipe of his paw. Whoosh, whoosh. The remaining cultivators fled in panic like stray dogs. Bodies and broken limbs piled up on the ground. It was extremely bloody and cruel. The entire battlefield in the sky was swept clean. Only Mingi, Ta Kong, Bai Zhe and Long Pijuan were left standing in the sky, looking down at everyone like peerless gods of war. There was dead silence in the sky and on the ground. All the cultivators were dumbfounded and couldn't make a sound. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Only a few cultivators were able to make a sound with their teeth chattering. That's terrifying. The same thought appeared in everyone's mind. They had all heard of Jiang Taichu's strength and it was already very terrifying. But what was more terrifying was that he didn't have any weak subordinates. They were all nascent soul cultivators and could easily kill the top overlords of the Baiming world and Penglai world. Besides, each of them was fierce and vicious. They were simply terrifying and no one had the courage to face them. No wonder Sword Saint Outyan didn't dare to fight with him back then. No wonder Sword Saint Outyan went into seclusion after returning. The Zongzi of Heaven Baron sect, Zhang Qingyang, was shocked and lamented. Even if Kong Teichu didn't attack, his subordinates would be abnormally terrifying once they released their combat strength, let alone if he attacked. Fellow Daoist Kumu, it's true that you think I'm not qualified to fight you. Jiang Tian looked at Heavenly Lord Kumu with a fake smile and said indifferently, however, there doesn't seem to be anyone on your side who can fight me. You're the only one who can do it. Fellow Daoist, your dermic powers are strong and your subordinates are filled with ferocious generals. This old man admits defeat. Chancellor Kumu's eyes flashed. To everyone's surprise, he stood up slowly and cupped his fists at Jiang Tian with a hunched back. However, Jiang Tian continued glaring at him with a chilling, killing intent in his eyes. He was an important subordinate of the Ruins Emperor and would have to fight sooner or later. Naturally, he had to eliminate him while he was alone. There was no need to show mercy. It was just a misunderstanding previously. The inheritance of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor has no owner to begin with. You can use it as you wish. This old man has no objections. He was still smiling, but he was extremely indignant. He was the Chancellor of 100 Moon Academy after all. Even though he had already stepped down, he still had his prestige and had never lowered his head like that. Everyone was also surprised and in disbelief. Even Zhang Qingyang was a bit shocked. In their eyes, the grand old Chancellor of the 100 Moon Academy was an extremely outstanding figure. He was like a god that stood high above everyone else. And yet he was forced to back down by Jiang Tian at this moment. Kong Teichu was really domineering. Brother Shujian, Heavenly Lord Kumu actually backed down? Fairy Yao, you also couldn't believe it. Her beautiful face was full of shock. The inheritance of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor can definitely create a nascent soul cultivator, but he's only at the peak stage and not far from the soul formation realm. However, it might not be able to push him to the soul formation realm. What he wants is nothing but to advance to the soul formation realm. Wuxia thought it through and heaved a sigh. Even though there are a lot of rumors about the inheritance of the Golden Crow, no one knows for sure what it really is. After all, it's been a long time. Who knows if it's been excavated? Besides, he doesn't know how powerful Kong Techu is, and there are so many powerful cultivators following him. So there's no need for him to take the risk. What a pity. He was unwilling to give up. However, Jiang Tian's attitude caused him to be overjoyed. Jiang Tian actually took a step forward. His eyes were filled with coldness. He smiled and said, "Your disciple Lu Fei insulted my servant. I've said that I'll give her the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. You have no objections, right?" After hearing that, everyone was shocked and terrified. Kong Techu was too arrogant. Everyone knew that Lu Fei was Heavenly Lord Kumu's favorite and he valued her a lot. A few years ago, a disciple of a heavenly sect in the ruins of deity flirted with her, which made Kumu furious. Many big shots pleaded for mercy, but Heavenly Lord Kumu didn't show any mercy and smashed him into pieces. Jiang Tian's purpose wasn't to kill anyone, but to rub Heavenly Lord Kumu's face on the ground and force him to attack. After all, Jiang Tian was known as the super executioner of nascent soul cultivators and an unparalleled Heavenly Lord. Killing Lu Fei, who had just entered the nascent soul level a few years ago, was like child's play for him. "You're so rude. You know who I am and you still dare to talk to me like that. Do you want to die?" Lu Fei was so angry that her face flushed red. Her plump chest heaved up and down violently. She ground her fine silver teeth and spoke with hatred. Her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly and revealed a wisp of coldness. "What did you say?" Deadwood Lord was so angry that his face turned pale. His eyes suddenly turned cold and ferocious. Chilling killing intent seeped out of his body. Suddenly, the temperature in 100-mile range dropped dozens of degrees. Frost formed on the plants and snow fell from the sky. Even the hot spring was covered with a thin layer of ice. "Do you have a problem with that?" With his hands behind his back, Jiang Tian approached step by step as if he was taking a stroll in the park. With a playful smile, he said leisurely, "Then reveal your Dharma idol and fight with me. Senior Taichu ancestral patriarch Kumu's power is beyond your imagination." Long Xingnan bowed and said, "He's from the 100 Moon Academy and the Chancellor of the Ruins Emperor's Palace. Don't be disrespectful to him." "What does this woman want?" Yao Yu Fairy asked. "Doesn't she want Kong Techu to be severely injured or die so that she can escape? She knows that Kong Techu and Heavenly Lord Kumu will fight. She won't change her mind." Wu Shujian's eyes were bright and clear. He smiled and said, "She said that for Heavenly Lord Kumu and Lu Fei. She wants to leave a good impression on them. That way they won't complain to the Ruins Emperor's Palace and will even put in a good word for her." Jiang Tian suddenly cast a sidelong glance at Long Xingnan. He waved his sleeve and sneered. "You dog, you don't even have the qualifications to be my maid. You're not allowed to talk here." Boom. Long Xingnan was knocked away and her bones cracked. She spurted out blood and fell to the ground. Chapter 1435. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to look at her. Instead he sneered and said, "In front of me, Kong Techu, you are just trash that I can crush with one slap." Lord Deadwood was originally furious, but when he saw Jiang Tian's fighting spirit, he forced himself to calm down. He didn't know what Jiang Tian was thinking. He clenched his teeth and said with a smile, "This woman is just an ordinary woman. But her dual cultivation skills are really good. If you want her, just take her out and enjoy her. You can do whatever you want with her." After saying that, he covered his face and was about to leave. Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. Just how capable was this Jiang Taichu to be able to make the dignified elder Deadwood retreat to such an extent? He even gave his woman away for Jiang Tian to enjoy. Patriarch. Lu Fei was stunned and couldn't believe it. She was so scared that she knelt down in front of Lord Deadwood and begged, "Patriarch, I don't want to go. Is it because I'm not gentle enough and not coquettish enough? Is that why you want to drive me away?" She raised her beautiful face and tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked pitiful like a pear blossom in the rain. "Please let me stay by your side and serve you well. I'll make sure you're satisfied." This Jiang Taichu was ruthless and cruel to the extreme. Even Long Xingnan, a golden branch and jade leaf, was sent flying with a slap. Her bones were fractured and she was vomiting blood. The dried wood monarch's heart was filled with humiliation and regret. He turned his head away. He couldn't bear to see her begging face. However, the more old he was, the more cautious he was. He didn't want to fight with Jiang Tian for a woman. He smiled gently and said, Tai Chu has ruled several worlds. He is a genius. But I'm already old. You'll get endless benefits if you become his maid. His eyes suddenly became deep and cold. His sleeves fluttered without wind. A faint pressure came over. He said word by word, you have to think carefully. Don't be stupid. She had followed Deadwood Lord of Heaven for many years and knew him well. She knew that once he said that he was on the verge of killing someone. If she continued to pester him, he would definitely kill her. Lu Fei walked stiffly towards Jiang Tian like a criminal who was on her way to the execution ground. When she was 20 meters away from Jiang Tian, she knelt down on the ground. Then she moved forward step by step and said with her head on the ground, Grand Primordium Heavenly Monarch, please forgive me this once. I'm willing to serve you for the rest of my life. I won't dare to disobey your orders. After saying this, she looked at Jiang Tian with a pitiful expression, a tear-stained face. Unfortunately, he could only see indifference in Jiang Tian's eyes. She suddenly shivered. The young man in front of him did not seem to belong to this world. Instead, he seemed to be an immortal who had descended from the heavens. There was not a shred of human emotion in his eyes. But Jiang Tian was still unmoved. There was no emotion on his face. If there was any emotion, it was only disdain. He sneered. I said that I'll give you an incense stick's worth of time to kill yourself. Do you think that I, Jiang Taichu, am joking? At this moment, the sandalwood incense stick that old monster Mingi had inserted into the ground finally burned to the last part and completely turned into ashes. On the other hand, amidst an expanse of exclaims of surprise and shrill cries, Jiang Tian had already attacked bluntly, and he slapped Lu Fei into mush with a single palm strike. Lu Fei, a nascent soul heavenly lord, an overlord on the war god roll and the goddess in the hearts of thousands of cultivators in the 100 Moon Academy, had died. Kang Teichu Yu, heavenly monarch Deadwood, was enraged. Who didn't want to enjoy Lu Fei's beauty? He thought Jiang Tian would at least spare her life if he gave her to Jiang Tian. He had never thought that Jiang Tian would be so ruthless as to smash her into pieces. Heavenly monarch Deadwood felt as if his heart had been pierced by a knife after seeing her die such a miserable death. You said I could do whatever I wanted with her, so I did. But do you think it's inappropriate? Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. He looked up at the sky as if it were a beautiful view. Well done, my friend. Old man, I have no objections. Heavenly monarch Deadwood clenched his teeth and was about to leave. Wait. However, Jiang Tian's figure flashed and blocked his way. He said with a faint smile, I heard that the cultivation arts in the ruins of deities are extremely powerful. I, Kang Teichu, have always admired them. This is a rare opportunity. I would like to borrow fellow Daoists' medicinal pills, magic artifacts, and supreme cultivation techniques to study and comprehend them. Fellow Daoist agrees, I will definitely be moved. I've really fucked 10,000 alligators. At this moment, countless cultivators were stunned. They looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief as if they were looking at a monster. Kang Teichu was going too far. You killed his woman and now you want to take his Dharma treasures. That's too much. Why don't you go rob someone? If Lu Fei were still alive, she would have shouted. Unfortunately, her divine soul had already been destroyed by Jiang Tian. Only on Jiang Tian's side, Qi Liqui Ao Jiao, and the others felt incomparably delighted. Ku Mu and the other higher realm cultivators always came to their world to kill people and steal their treasures. It was as if they had entered an uninhabited land. However, if there was any resistance, they would immediately be killed and their families wiped out. This time they would have a taste of what it was like to be robbed. Fairy Yao Yu covered her mouth and giggled. This brat is quite an interesting person. However, Brother Shujian is even more interesting. As you expected, this battle is unavoidable. Interesting. He will die today. Wu Shujian mocked. He doesn't know how powerful Heavenly Lord Deadwood is. Heavenly Lord Deadwood only backed down because he's old and doesn't know how to fight. But he's not weak at all. If they really fight, Kang Teichu won't be able to defeat him. He said with certainty. Brat, aren't you being too overbearing? Chancellor Ku Mu squinted his eyes and a bright light shot out from his eyes. His body suddenly straightened, and the originally sloppy and wretched feeling instantly disappeared without a trace. What replaced it was an incomparably vast and deep nascent soul aura pressure. You may have killed many nascent soul heavenly lords from the Jade Lake and the Hylon heavenly lords, but the cultivation arts they practiced were incomplete and they sensed the wrong laws of heaven. They can't be compared to me. Many cultivators from the lower world were shocked and couldn't believe it. What does he mean? Why do you say that my heavenly Tao laws are wrong and incomplete? Chapter 1436. Even Long Xingnan revealed a puzzled expression. She had heard Long Basha mention that before, but he would not tell her the details as if it was a taboo. I understand what you're saying. Jiang Tian smiled and said casually, the Immortal ruins were once close to the Immortal ruins. Back then, there were many worlds in the ruins of immortality that were originally near the ancient Earth. The ancient sages pushed those worlds across 4 light-years and billions of kilometers into the South Gate Galaxy. The trajectories of the stars and the constellations in the Milky Way changed slightly. The spirit chi of heaven and earth was also different from before. As the saying goes, Tao follows nature. Cultivation is about taking the creation of heaven and earth and making use of nature. The environment has changed, but they're still using the original cultivation arts. Of course, they're backward and incomplete, unable to mobilize the spirit chi of heaven and earth and activate the laws of heaven and earth. But the descendants of the Ruins Emperor like the 100 Moon Academy are different. The Ruins Emperor was a native of the Twin Stars by the Southern Gate to begin with. What you cultivate in is also a cultivation technique that the Ruins Emperor left behind. It is compatible with the great Tao of heaven and earth and resonates with it. Naturally, you can borrow the heaven and earth powers to the greatest extent, allowing you to crush other worlds. That's not obvious for Golden Core perfected cultivators. Golden Core cultivators can only attack with their Dharma form, but it's especially obvious for nascent soul heavenly lords and soul formation grand cultivators. That's because Dharma laws and great Tao come from nature. That's one of the reasons why Emperor Xing Zhong Liao Emperor and the other ancient sages couldn't defeat the Ruins Emperor back then. Soul formation cultivators had already abandoned spirit stones and absorbed the energy of the universe of a higher level to be strengthened by heaven and earth, becoming acquired gods. To put it simply, their power came from the constellation galaxy. These changes in the environment were fatal to a divine transformation cultivator. They had to change their cultivation arts, or their cultivation would only be 1/10 of their original level. This kid is really a monster. You even understand this point and have thought it through. Hearing that, Qin Shuang was shocked and his face changed. Even Chancellor Ku Mu was shocked and couldn't believe it. Long Xingnan was also surprised. Is it not because our bloodline is inferior to the Ruins Emperors, but because our cultivation arts are not as compatible with heaven and earth as theirs? If that's the case, do you still want to be my enemy? Deadwood Sovereign took a step forward. Almost unimaginably terrifying ripples spread out from his body like ripples. At first it was still very small. His sleeves were fluttering and no one felt any discomfort. But in the blink of an eye, it became bigger and bigger and a huge pressure descended from the sky. Rumble. Everyone felt as if there were mountains pressing down on them. Even a nascent soul cultivator like Long Xingnan would not be able to withstand it. In the void, the sound of countless chains of law being torn apart could be heard. A terrifying shadow rushed out from behind Lord Driedwood. It was a withered giant tree. The giant tree was several thousand feet tall, and it seemed to be able to pierce through the heavens. The withered giant tree was pitch black and heavy, as if it was forged from iron. It flickered with a frightening cold light and countless branches of various shapes and sizes shot out from the sides. Some were like halberds, some were like sharp swords, and some were like heavenly blades. They were indestructible and unstoppable. A bloodthirsty aura of slaughter descended from the heavens. With a plop, countless golden core cultivators knelt on the ground. Even Long Xingnan was shocked. She felt a power of law and looked up with difficulty. This tree is much more powerful than Azure the Archchen's green jade tree. It was a spirit tree planted by Jiao Rui, the second emperor of the Ao Emperor's era. It has a lifespan of 10,000 years and is born with a protective divine power. Its body is so strong that not even a supreme-grade true artifact can hurt it. It became the right-hand man of the nine-headed dragon emperor. Heavenly Lord Deadwood straightened his body and his unkempt look completely disappeared. He was full of energy and a powerful pressure of law was released. At this moment his face was filled with arrogance. Only now did he reveal the great divine ability of the 100 Moons Academy's chancellor and the overwhelming majesty of an unparalleled heavenly monarch. He cracked a vicious smile and said, "In the end, it was captured by the Emperor of the Ruins during the battle for the deity ground. It was refined by the Emperor of the Ruins for thousands of years and was finally made into a supreme-grade true artifact. The Emperor of the Ruins gave it to me when I became the Chancellor of the 100 Moons Academy. I refined it for thousands of years and combined it with my golden core. Over the past few hundred years, there were at least 17 nascent soul cultivators and beast cultivators who died under this tree, if not 20. Do you really want to make things difficult for me?" Roar. A human face appeared in the center of the trunk of the giant tree behind him. Its crimson-red eyes stared fixedly at Zhou Xian. It opened its mouth and roared, emitting an endless smell of blood. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Even Long Xingnan exclaimed and Long Pejuan was enraged. Legend had it that the migration of the deity ground to the South Gate twin stars took a long time. Not even soul formation grand cultivators could survive that long. The name Ao Emperor actually referred to a dynasty, an era when grand cultivators of the monsters became the main force. It didn't just refer to an ancient emperor or Ao Emperor himself. Ao Emperor's real name was Ao Wuchang. After Emperor Xing passed the throne to Zhongli and Emperor Zhongli, he had once destroyed the path of heaven and earth with a slash of his sword. He had also realized the interstellar wandering of the deity ground and migrated to the South Gate twin stars galaxy. But during Ao Emperor's time he had many successors and a few emperors of the monsters. Most of the time, Ao Wuchang would go into hibernation to preserve his energy and power, prolonging his life. It was like hibernation during a space voyage. As for the nine-headed dragon Emperor Jiao Rui, he was a famous and powerful emperor successor, and was the representative appointed by the Ao sovereign himself. Rumor had it that he was extremely talented and his bloodline wasn't much weaker than Ao Wuchang's. During the long journey in the universe he had once fought his way into the void with only his physical body, crossed tens of thousands of miles, and fought against extremely brutal and unknown creatures. He had once killed dozens of divine transformation realm giants and destroyed an ancient starship by himself. His battle achievements were glorious. That battle had shocked the world. That battle had shocked an entire era. After the deity ground entered the orbit of the South Gate twin stars, the natives of the South Gate twin stars, including the Ruins Emperor, suddenly attacked and started a shocking battle with the natives of the deity ground. That was an era of great changes. Everything was unstable. The deity ground had entered a strange environment after billions of miles of voyage. The trajectories of the planets had changed and the constellation galaxy was completely different from what it used to be. Besides, the spirit chi was greatly consumed during the voyage. The planets that had entered the orbit had braked and changed direction, causing the world to change drastically. Mulberry fields turned into oceans, trenches rose into volcanoes, countless continents collapsed and earthquakes lasted for hundreds of days. For the natives of the deity ground who had just arrived in the South Gate galaxy, that era was called the era of lack of Tao. All the cultivators were affected like tourists who couldn't get used to a foreign place. The divine powers of the natives of the deity ground were already unnatural and extremely difficult. Their strength had been reduced to a tenth of what it used to be and they could only fight with their bodies. They were almost unable to use Dharma forms, divine powers, forbidden regions and territories. It was said that Emperor Zhongli had already gone missing at that time. Ao Emperor and many other emperors didn't wake up, which was caused by the great changes in the world. Even the awakening arrays had collapsed. Jiao Rui, the nine-headed dragon emperor, was the only one who woke up. He was extremely lonely and surrounded by countless overlords, but he wasn't scared at all. He fought the Ruins Emperor and many other super overlords alone, successfully killing more than 30 soul formation overlords and severely injuring his enemies. Even though he failed on the verge of success, he was still remembered by later generations. His name was passed down through the ages. Even now, mentioning it was still an unmatched taboo in the great ruins of immortality. The ancient tree of Heavenly Lord Deadwood was a spirit tree planted by the ancient Saint Jiao Rui himself. How terrifying would a tree demon that had been carefully cultivated be? Besides, after being refined by the Ruins Emperor and Heavenly Lord Deadwood, its divine powers were unimaginably powerful. When Long Xingnan and Long Pejuan finished telling them everything they knew, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. Chapter 1437. Senior Grand Primordium. Even Qi Liqui shouted anxiously. He thought to himself, why don't we just forget about it? Even if we win against such a terrifying old monster, we will only suffer great losses. Today Jiang Tian had forced him to hand over his lover Lu Fei, and he had killed her with a single palm strike. That was enough for him to look down on the world. Even if Jiang Tian retreated now, he would not lose any of his prestige. There was no need to take the risk. At that moment, Deadwood Heavenly Lord softened his tone and said sincerely, Kong Teichu, I don't want to kill you either. You are extremely talented and I admire you very much. If you admit your mistakes now, I will put in a good word for you before the Ruins Emperor. We can call a truce and let bygones be bygones. I can even recommend you to join the 100 Moons Academy. At that moment even Ao Jiao and the others were tempted. After all, the chances of Jiang Tian winning against Deadwood Heavenly Lord were not high. What kind of trash is the 100 Moons Academy? And what kind of bullshit is the Ruins Emperor? I don't care about any of that. So what if I want to be your enemy today? Jiang Tian put his hands behind his back and took a step forward. At that moment he did not release his Dharma form. His divine aura was restrained and he was less than 2 meters tall. Under the Deadwood Dharma form that was thousands of feet tall, he was as tiny as an ant. Kong Teichu, you are just an abandoned person of the wasteland. I respect your talent and that's why I called you fellow Daoist. If I don't respect you, you will be nothing more than an ant that I can easily crush. I've said everything I can but you still don't know what's good for you. Alright, you have successfully infuriated me. Kong Teichu, it's time for you to die. Deadwood Heavenly Lord's hair and beard flared up. His eyes were almost spewing fire as he roared angrily. His last sentence was spat out one word at a time. He indeed did not want to fight. He was already old and had both reputation and status. All he wanted was to reach the top of the soul formation realm and extend his lifespan. He did not want to fight to the death with a hothead like Jiang Tian. It was too risky and not worth it. However, Jiang Tian's overbearingness caused anger to rise in his heart, and his killing intent to soar. He was a dignified living fossil of the desert world, the old chancellor of 100 Moon Academy. In the past he was awe-inspiring even in the ruins of immortality, and he was able to talk with numerous gods as equals. When had he ever suffered such provocation and disrespect? He talked too much. Jiang Tian's face was indifferent. His right hand, which was behind his back, slowly clenched into a fist and suddenly punched out. Rumble. 9 spinning galaxies appeared behind Jiang Tian's back. Then it spun rapidly. Boundless magical power poured into Jiang Tian's fist. At that moment, a terrifying golden light erupted from Jiang Tian's fist, illuminating everything within 100 miles. It was as if a sun had lit up. Every blade of grass and every tree could be seen. Every mountain and rock reflected a dazzling white light, blinding many cultivators for a moment. Clang. Heaven and earth collapsed and the sun and moon hung upside down. The void exploded. Layers of astral winds, vast magical power, and countless nomological chains were all destroyed by Jiang Tian's fist. A 3-mile-wide hole appeared in the void. It was pitch black. The gunmetal nomological laws roared. Vast vital energy with an undying charm, was sacred and dazzling. It swept through the entire rushing current valley, causing wind and thunder to surge and the earth to shake. Gunmetal Divine Fist. Powered by the 9 galaxy-like golden cores of the divine disk, it gathered on the gunmetal immortal body. One punch could shatter mountains and rivers and one strike could split continents. Even the stars in the sky trembled. This was a truly immortal fist art. It was unstoppable and destroyed everything in its path. It could be called a god-level cultivation technique. It was supreme and far surpassed all immortal cultivation techniques. If Jiang Tian cultivated this fist art to the extreme, it would be easy for him to shatter a small planet. Its power was terrifying beyond compare. Boom. Seeing Jiang Tian's fist coming, Heavenly Lord Deadwood was also alarmed. The Deadwood Dharma form stepped forward and blocked the fist energy. However, the Dharma idol of the dead tree only lasted for half a second before it exploded with a loud bang. The terrifying fist energy pierced through the sky like a missile, leaving a long golden shadow behind. It crossed 10 miles and was about to hit Perfected Lord Deadwood. Oh no! Perfected Cultivator Kumu's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Thousands of rays of light shot out of his protective true treasures, forming a colorful shield. However, he was immediately blasted 10 miles away by Zhang Tian's fist force. He forcefully blasted 5 or 6 mountains before coming to a stop. Estige. At that moment, the thousands of cultivators within a radius of a few dozen kilometers were silent like cicadas in winter, and the sound of them inhaling cold breaths rose and fell one after another. The power of this punch is truly terrifying. This is a demon transformed from an ancient spiritual tree. After being refined by the 9-headed Dragon King Ao Emperor and the Deadwood Lord, it finally evolved to the extreme and became the golden core Dharma form of the Deadwood Lord. Yet it still couldn't withstand the power of his punch. Terrifying. It's too terrifying. Only at this moment did everyone realize why Zhang Tian was so overbearing and refused to budge. It turned out that he really had something to rely on. One had to know that this tree demon originally had a thick and indestructible skin. Even a true treasure could not harm it. After countless years of refinement, it was simply the toughest thing in the world, enough to fight against a half-stepped Dao treasure. And yet it was destroyed by Zhang Tian's punch. That was surprising. Zhang Tian didn't even use his Dharma form. He only used part of his Dharma power. Oh God. It turns out that he didn't even use his full strength on the 18 island. He only used it to strengthen his body. Even Long Xingnan was stunned. She knew that Zhang Tian was very strong. His performance on the 18 island had already frightened her. After all, he had killed more than 20 nascent soul heavenly monarchs alone. But now she was sure that Zhang Tian didn't use his full strength on the 18 island. He was even more powerful than she had seen before. It seemed that he could reach the limit without any limit. Brother Shujian, he's so powerful. He seems to be more powerful than we thought. His divine powers are flawless and natural. Fairy Yao Yu's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief and astonishment. Such strength was probably comparable to the top elites on the God of War list. He was at least on the same level as Heavenly Lord Deadwood. It wasn't like what Wu Shujian said before, where Zhang Tian couldn't even withstand a single blow and would be suppressed by Deadwood's sovereign. How can his divine powers be so perfect? How can he manipulate the laws so easily? Wu Shujian was also surprised, but he didn't have time to think about it. He said with disdain, "He's in big trouble. Chancellor Deadwood isn't that easy to deal with. After all, he came from a higher world and had cultivated in 100 Moons Academy before. To put it more broadly, Chancellor Kumu could be considered his teacher and senior. On top of that, he had also misjudged Zhang Tian's punch. Wasn't this punch of Zhang Tian's also landing on his face? Boom. In the distance, rubble pierced through the sky. Qi surged like a bull. Boundless and vast miasma surged like a tide. A black shadow tore through the sky with a loud rumble, dragging a long tail behind it as it descended from the sky. Heavenly Lord Deadwood's clothes were torn, but his chest wasn't stained with blood and he wasn't injured. Little bastard, you've completely infuriated me. Today I'm going to cut you into pieces and crush you inch by inch. Heavenly Lord Deadwood's face was twisted as he shouted angrily. This time he was extremely angry. You only know how to talk. What's so great about a chancellor? In the end you were still sent flying by my punch. Next time I'm going to hit your face and let you know pain. Zhang Tian mocked him as if he was looking at an ant. Brat, how dare you? Heavenly Lord Deadwood shouted angrily. At this moment, everyone felt that his spirit embryo was like a dormant volcano that suddenly erupted. The nascent soul in the shape of a tree man roared and the sound shook 1,000 miles. Boom. A chilling black deadwood aura gushed out from his spirit embryo. Even his hair and beard were dyed black. His deep eyes were even filled with thunder. His hands moved and evolved the law of Deadwood. It was filled with the charm of nature, far surpassing the incomplete law of an ordinary nascent soul. Dharma is self and one. Heavenly Lord Deadwood shouted. The Dharma of Deadwood merged with his body and gradually turned into the shape of an extremely terrifying tree man. This tree man was 3,000 feet tall. Its body was covered with fibrous muscles like an old tree that was intertwined with dragons. Its skin was rough and its flesh was thick. It was strong and its deep eyes were emitting green light, making it look like a demon. The ancient demon abyss was dead silent. Countless living beings felt their hearts tremble. Chapter 1438. At this moment, Heavenly Lord Kumu soared into the sky, surrounded by a silk-like blue-black aura. He was like a god descending. His aura was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than Emperor Qing's. It was like the Milky Way pouring down to the earth. Countless cultivators and ferocious demonic beasts within a radius of 1,000 miles all prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling in fear. Among the cultivators from the lower worlds, only Mingi, Takong Longpajuan, Chilakui and a few others were able to hold on. Dharma unity. This is the way a top nascent soul cultivator fights. Kong Teichu is in danger this time. Long Xingnan turned pale and looked serious. Dharma powers were unleashed at the Golden Core stage. For both nascent soul and Golden Core adepts, Dharma powers were the greatest weapons. When a Dharma form left the body, the Dharma power would be strengthened. However, as long as the Dharma form didn't merge with the body, it wouldn't be dangerous. The destruction of the Dharma form would only damage part of the Golden Core cultivator's true essence and Dharma power. Once the Dharma and self were fused as one, spirit, nascent soul, divine ability, Dharma power, flesh, blood and many other factors would be twisted into a rope. As the limit was strengthened, one's battle prowess would be boosted and improved by tens or even hundreds of times. But there were also disadvantages. Once the Dharma unity was used, it would affect everything and there would be no chance for him to escape. The Dharma unity and the nascent soul explosion were the most powerful attacks of nascent soul cultivators. Once they were used, they were comparable to soul formation cultivators and could also injure soul formation cultivators. The nascent soul explosion was usually used when a heavenly lord was forced into a corner and he would drag his enemy to hell. The Dharma unity was more aggressive and it wasn't used only when he was in a desperate situation. It was only used to kill the enemy. Grandpa is angry. Qin Shuang's grandson waved his wrist and the golden bell disappeared into the sky. He stuck out his tongue. Kong Teichu is so powerful. He forced Heavenly Lord Kumu to use the secret art of the Dharma unity. Tisk. Qin Shuang sized Jiang Tian up with a cold glitter in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. Does he have to be so crazy? Even Yao Yu Fairy and Wu Shujian were shocked. They didn't expect Deadwood Heavenly Lord to be so resolute. Little bastard, I'll show you the power of the flawless laws of the ruins of immortality. I'll show you how terrifying a real nascent soul Heavenly Lord is. Deadwood Sovereign shouted. His voice was like rolling thunder as if it came from the 9 heavens. His figure stretched across the abyss. Endless black light covered a radius of 1,000 miles, sweeping away all the miasma and fog. It was clearly visible from the Black Crystal City, attracting countless cultivators to watch the battle from the sky. A deity from the upper realm has descended to the lower realm. He collided with Kong Teichu. Good heavens! A world-shaking battle. For thousands of years, our Yingzhou world hasn't had such a terrifying battle. Report this to His Majesty Qijui of the Kangwu Palace. He's already here. Many cultivators were horrified. They watched without blinking and communicated with their divine senses. They were all terrified. Such power was too shocking. The power of one person filled half of the ancient demon abyss. No one could ignore it. This was a terrifying thing. The old chancellor of the 100 Moons Academy, a veteran nascent soul cultivator who had inherited the complete cultivation techniques of the ruins of immortality, had come to explore the ancient demon abyss and started a huge battle with the nascent soul cultivator Kong Teichu. Ancestors, please bless us. The Grand Primordium Heavenly Lord will be undefeated. The Kangwu Phoenix clan will have a long history and our descendants will have great achievements. This world will be peaceful and the flames of war will never rise. The people of this world will be safe and they will not suffer. Qijui's eyes were filled with panic. Then he closed his eyes and knelt on the ground. He kowtowed 3 times and bowed 9 times. He looked at the sky and prayed sincerely. Please bless the Grand Primordium Heavenly Lord and make him undefeated. He will kill the alien cultivators and return peace to the Yingzhou world. Many princes, princesses, nobles, ministers, sect leaders and family leaders also knelt and prayed for Jiang Tian. Qijui was very surprised and helpless. He did not expect that even though he had closed many world-hole teleportation designs, there would still be powerful cultivators from the upper world entering the upper world through some unknown ancient teleportation designs. He had just pledged allegiance to Jiang Tian when Ku Mu and company arrived. They were too fast and caught him off guard. Ku Mu, Qin Shuang, and other powerful cultivators from the upper world had received the favor and support of the Ruins Emperor's palace. They had vested interests and were naturally loyal to the Ruins Emperor. Once Jiang Tian perished, they could kill him for defecting. The Ruins Emperor would probably reward them handsomely. Although he was anxious, there was nothing he could do to help in the battle between Jiang Tian and Ku Mu. In front of the unparalleled Heavenly Lord, he was just a nascent soul realm cultivator. He was like a 3-year-old child who could not withstand a single blow. He could only pray. Beside the rushing current valley, divine might surged. Endless withered wood laws intertwined and lingered. Billowing blackwood aura was as thick as lead clouds. It blotted out the sky and suppressed half of the ancient demon abyss. It was so oppressive that it was suffocating. Facing Ku Mu's overwhelming might, Jiang Tian showed no fear. He slashed across the sky and condensed a 10,000-foot-long gung metal saber. His fighting spirit surged as he slashed across the sky with the saber in hand. Die you ant. This time Ku Mu's Dharma body stepped forward. He raised his gigantic tree hand that blotted out the sky and grabbed at Jiang Tian. He wanted to crush Jiang Tian and his saber to smithereens. The pitch-black gigantic hand clashed with the gung metal saber, causing an incomparably violent shockwave to erupt. The black withered wood aura and the mighty gung metal quintessential essence stirred up a billowing shockwave that spread for thousands of miles and even tens of thousands of miles. It swept through the entire ancient demon abyss. The violent shockwave left the cultivators in Black Crystal City shuddering in fear. Clang. 3 of Ku Mu's tree-like fingers were broken, but the gung metal saber also exploded after holding on for 3 seconds. This is a real nascent soul realm cultivator. This is a flawless Dharma law. It's just so. Jiang Tianzong laughed. His desire to battle was overflowing. The giant will spun behind him, growing and multiplying endlessly. It was dazzling. Every slash from Jiang Tian was infused with the power of the 9 galaxy-like golden cores in the divine disk, including the Taoist essence restoration and the gung metal immortal golden cores that had formed their nascent souls. It was equivalent to 2 nascent soul realm cultivators and 7 golden core realm cultivators working together, and they were all divine-grade golden cores. Fortunately, Ku Mu was using a complete cultivation technique from the Ruins Emperor that belonged to the South Gate Galaxy. He was able to use the spirit chi of heaven and earth around him at all times. He was much stronger than ordinary nascent soul realm cultivators and was in the state of Dharma and unity. His fighting power was increased tenfold, far surpassing grand cultivators like Emperor Qin Qing and Long Luo. He was close to the soul formation realm. Otherwise he would have been killed by Jiang Tian's slash. But even then he was still slashed repeatedly by Jiang Tian to the point of retreating repeatedly, and he was in dire straits while numerous deep saber marks appeared on his body. 15 minutes. I'll destroy your body and soul. Jiang Tian sneered. Heavenly Lord Ku Mu was indeed powerful. After all, he had been refined in the 100 Moon Academy and was much stronger than normal nascent soul realm cultivators like Emperor Qin Qing and Long Luo. His cultivation art was also from the twin stars of the South Gate. Compared to the old cultivation arts from the ancient earth and the ancient deity land that Emperor Qin Qing practiced, it was more compatible with the world and he could use Dharma laws more easily. However, Jiang Tian's cultivation art was a divine-grade cultivation art, or a real deity art. It contained the highest Tao and truth which was applicable everywhere. So, it wasn't affected by the change of environment and the change of the galaxy at all. The most obvious thing was that Jiang Tian hadn't even used his Dharma form. He had only used 20% of his power, but he was still able to suppress Heavenly Lord Ku Mu, which meant that Jiang Tian was in an advantageous position. Kid, don't be smug. Perfected Lord Ku Mu shouted furiously. The wood element aura in an area of 500 kilometers was brazenly drawn away by him, and it condensed into shields, spears and chains of the laws of withered wood in the air. They were densely packed and innumerable, and they enveloped an area of 50 kilometers in the sky. He stood proudly within them and his magic power was like an abyss that filled the entire area. Kill, kill, kill. Jiang Tian didn't care about any of that. He pushed the gung metal blade to the extreme and slashed the sky and the ground. The dimension was shattered by Jiang Tian. None of the wood elemental laws could stop Jiang Tian. No matter what kind of magical power or law true Lord Kumu used, he couldn't block Jiang Tian's world-destroying saber strike. In the end, Heavenly Lord Kumu was truly enraged. His entire body was like a world tree holding up the world. He suddenly stopped, his face cold to the extreme as he stood proudly in the void. In that instant, it was as if the world around him had disappeared. In the vast expanse of the sky he was the creator. He was the only god. Forbidden land. Heavenly Lord Kumu said slowly. Boom. All the air, Dharma power, fiend chi, wind, clouds, grass and wood within 100-mile radius suddenly stopped as if time had stopped. Only Qin Fan and Luo Chongshan could move. The others were frozen. The Forbidden Land. A peerless divine power of a nascent soul cultivator. But when Heavenly Lord Kumu used it, it was more than a few times more powerful than any other nascent soul Heavenly Lord. Chapter 1439. Laws. Heavenly Lord Kumu yelled again. In the air, the laws of withered wood had completely solidified. They were pitch black like chains, crushing the space and wrapping around Jiang Tian. Those laws were the order of the Grand Tao and the axioms of the universe. They were invisible and ordinary people couldn't touch them. Only nascent soul cultivators could feel them. Even if they only controlled one law, they would be on par with the world. Nascent soul cultivators could be called heavenly lords. The tribulation for nascent soul cultivators was also a punishment caused by those laws. It was a terrifying taboo. But now, the moment the dried wood heavenly lord opened his mouth, he was able to condense the laws into substance and manifest them. Such might was terrifying to the extreme. But that wasn't the end. Kumu locked the sky. The deadwood lord of heaven's expression turned solemn. His sleeves fluttered as he continuously made a few mysterious finger gestures. Then he pointed at Jiang Tian in the air. Countless black chains flashed with a black light in the sky. They were extremely cold and heavy, full of inviolable sacred power. They were formed by endless laws and sealing power and were almost indestructible. Then the deadwood lord of heaven pointed in the air, and the many black chains of law instantly disappeared. The next moment, they appeared around Jiang Tian like giant pythons coiling around him. Like dancing tentacles, they instantly locked Jiang Tian's limbs and bones. Boom! Jiang Tian activated the divine disc and the golden energy shot into the sky, trying to break the chains, but he didn't succeed. The Dharma laws and restrictions even made him lose his Dharma power for a short while. He fell to the ground like a meteorite, creating a deep pit. Taichu Heavenly Lord. Master. At that moment, Bai Zai Mingyi and Ta Kong yelled. What's going on? Chi Liqui Ao Jiao and the other girls turned pale. This is the supreme saint art of the 100 Moon Academy, which can overlook the ruins of deity and shock thousands of sections. It's extremely powerful. I heard that even the peak stage nascent soul cultivators from the star ocean who have been wandering the universe for thousands of years can't even struggle once they're suppressed by such a saint art. All of your divine abilities, spells, and even your innate bloodline power will be sealed, and you'll be at the mercy of others. Wu Shujian's eyes were focused and his face was filled with fear. He slowly exhaled and said in a deep voice, "The older the ginger, the spicier it is." Fairy Yao Yu's expression changed drastically. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock, and even her delicate body was trembling slightly. Jiang Tian's strength and his peerless demeanor when he killed so many nascent soul heavenly lords on the 18 Island had left a deep impression on her. However, such a powerful Kong Teichu was actually no match for Deadwood Sovereign's nomological technique. He tapped lightly. This Chancellor Withered Tree is indeed overbearing and tyrannical. Even Wu Shujian revealed a look of deep fear, and he was also a little surprised. This Chancellor Kumu had always been wretched and sloppy, indulging in women and dual cultivation. Many people felt that it was hard for him to live up to his reputation, and even Wu Shujian despised him in his heart. But now he finally understood. All of this was just his protective facade. He was unwilling to reveal his true strength, and it was due to his cautious nature. "Little bastard, what else do you have to say now?" Heavenly Lord Deadwood snickered. He stepped on the world and the sun, the moon and the stars were above his head. He said with disdain, "I'm old and I don't want to take risks. I don't want to fight with a reckless young man like you, but why do you have to be so aggressive? I've already given up Lu Fei for you to do whatever you want with her, and you still want my Dharma treasure? You want to rob me? Why don't you take a look in the mirror?" Do you think you're worthy? You'll always be an abandoned person from the lower worlds, an ant and a cockroach looking for leftovers in the garbage dump. You're defying the laws of heaven by offending me. The complete cultivation art of the ruins of deity is so powerful. I'm afraid you've never thought of it and can't even imagine it. You're also a genius. If you accept my offer and join the 100 Moons Academy, you'll be able to reach the top of the soul formation level after 100 years of cultivation. Even this old man will have to admit defeat. Unfortunately, you're too arrogant. You rejected me, and because of a single mistake you actually fell into such a miserable state. He seemed to be regretful, but his eyes were cold and full of killing intent. In fact, he never really wanted to recommend Zhang Tian to the 100 Moons Academy. He just didn't want to fight with Zhang Tian and take risks. Let go of my master. In an instant, Bai Zhe, ancestral patriarch Takong Mingyi, Long Pajuan, the cowardly black dog, and even Qi Liqui and Ao Jiao, who were obviously weaker, roared at the same time. They turned into beams of light and flashed across the sky like moths to a flame. They unleashed their Dharma forms and charged towards Heavenly Lord Deadwood, trying to save Zhang Tian. Piss off. He shouted angrily and waved his hand. A giant hand like a tree branch covered the sky, and the energy of the forbidden region crushed the dimension. A loud bang was heard. Bai Zhe and the others were sent flying like ragdolls. Their Dharma forms were shattered and their Dharma laws couldn't withstand a single blow. Everyone was covered in blood and their bones were broken. They couldn't stand up anymore and fell to the ground. Kill. Children, let's go. Long Pijuan's body was strong. Even though his arm was broken, he still roared and charged forward with his spear. Arg! Many demonic beasts roared as they prostrated themselves on the ground. Then they shot up, wanting to charge forward as well. Die! Heavenly Lord Deadwood didn't even look at them and stomped his foot. The forbidden region formed a chaotic dimensional field and cut everything to pieces. Thousands of monsters that could flatten mountains and break the ground were instantly turned into a pile of meat. Almost all of them died. Their attacks gave Zhang Tian 3 finger flicks of time. But it was enough. Zhang Tian roared and shot up. The divine disc spun and his dantian rumbled. His body let out countless beams of golden aura and seemed to be made of divine gold. As he struggled, many of the withered wood law chains began to emit explosive crackling sounds, as if they were about to break apart. Seeing that Zhang Tian was about to break free from the chains of law and tear open the forbidden region, everyone was overjoyed and let out a sigh of relief. No one would have thought that at this most important moment Qin Shuang, who had been watching from the sidelines as if he had nothing to do with the matter, would suddenly attack without declaring war. Frost long sky, freeze bone. Qin Shuang suddenly waved his hand and an extremely cold energy enveloped Zhang Tian as if it had come from the depths of hell. The law of frost. Zhang Tian's body instantly froze. Even the spinning speed of the 10-meter-long divine disc suddenly slowed down. His entire body, face and eyebrows were instantly covered in white frost. Extremely thin ice spikes attached to his skin and pierced through the wind and all the Dharma power defenses. They pierced into Zhang Tian's body like needles and started to imprison Zhang Tian's true essence and Dharma power. These were not ordinary frost thorns, but the manifestation of the laws. They were extremely sinister and vicious. Once they were used, they could kill a golden core cultivator in a second and freeze and control a normal nascent soul heavenly lord. Shameless. How dare you sneak attack us? What kind of senior are you? Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui yelled. Kang Teichu is just an ant in the mortal world. He's no match for my grandma. Well. His golden core can help me enter the nascent soul level. Qin Shuang's grandson emerged from the void bell. He clapped his hands with an arrogant and smug look. Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui, come here and be my child brides. I'll take good care of you tonight. He seemed to be young, but that was only his appearance. His real age was at least 100 years old. Then he revealed his true nature, which was greasy and greedy. He didn't look childish and cute at all. Good. Sister Qin Shuang intervened in time. Wonderful. Heavenly Lord Kumu burst into laughter and stomped his foot. It was as if a mountain was pressing down. Clang. Zhang Tian was trampled until he sank into the ground, disappearing without a trace. He smashed open a 10-li-long gully as if it was a canyon. Master. Senior. Bai Zhe and the others yelled. Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui turned pale and tears ran down their cheeks. They were worried and regretful. At the moment they had been beaten up badly. Everyone was bleeding and their bones were broken. Even their Dantian's spirit embryo was severely injured. Their Dharma power was unstable and they were on the verge of death. Moreover, what the dried wood sovereign had used was not an ordinary attack, but a high-level restrictive power. Vast power of law had been lingering around the wound, circulating endlessly to open the wound. Even Mingyi and Long Pejuan couldn't use Dharma power to reform their bodies. They would be exhausted to death, not to mention Qiliqui and Ao Jiao. However, they still shouted angrily and used the last of their magic power to fly toward the deadwood sovereign. Bang! A beam of golden light that connected heaven and earth soared out from the center of the earth. Half of Jiang Tian's body was covered in cracks, but he had already broken many of the frost and deadwood chains. However, he was still as fierce as before. He didn't seem weaker at all. He's not dead. How is that possible? Qin Shuang was shocked and couldn't believe it. Chapter 1440. He's not dead. Even Fairy Yao Yu and Wu Shujian were taken aback. Heavenly Lord Deadwood and Qin Shujian had used all their strength and the laws they controlled were so powerful that not even a soul formation cultivator could withstand it. They thought they didn't need to do anything anymore. Jiang Tian was dead for sure. They had never thought that Kong Teichu would survive and get rid of the chains. His bloodline is special and his body is extremely strong. But he won't be so lucky this time. Qin Shuang, we've gained a lot this time. His golden core is extraordinary. If it's made into a peerless heavenly pill, we'll be able to enter the soul formation level immediately and fulfill our wish. The Deadwood Heavenly Lord, Fao Hui, was tall and majestic like a deity. His eyes were filled with greed as he looked down at Jiang Tian. His cold voice was like rolling thunder. What a great thing. Qin Shuang couldn't believe it either. Ecstasy appeared on his face and it was extremely intense. It was already a great fortune to get the treasure of the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor, but it might not help them enter the soul formation level. And yet that kid's golden core could. Soul formation level. That was the supreme level that old nascent soul cultivators like them were pursuing. Once they entered the soul formation level, their lifespan would be extended to 10,000 years. They would also be able to understand the laws of the world and receive the support of the heavenly fate. They would be able to go beyond the universe and resonate with the universe. They would be like gods in the human world, belonging to another level of life. You must die today. Mingyi, burn half an incense stick. Jiang Tian looked up at the two in the sky with a serious face. Two beams of murderous light shot out of his eyes. He hadn't used all his strength just then. In order to refine his gung metal immortal constitution, he had only used his true essence to attack. He didn't even use his Dharma form, let alone Dharma laws and forbidden areas. But he had never thought that he would be so severely injured this time. Of course, this was in the case of Qin Shuang suddenly attacking. However, this was still something that he could not tolerate. In the past, Kong Teichu roamed the starry sky, killing immortal venerables and god kings. He was invincible in both the immortal world and the divine world. But now it had been severely injured by two nascent soul cultivators, and two weaklings from a desolate planet like the ruins of immortality. Intolerable. What? Killing two peerless heavenly lords and experienced nascent soul cultivators in half an hour? Don't dream about it. Fairy Yao Yu's robe was purer than snow. She looked otherworldly and there was a mocking smile on her face. He's going to use his full strength. Wu Shujian, on the other hand, stared fixedly at Jiang Tian. His expression was very serious, unwilling to let go of a single detail. Yes. He wanted to learn from the life and death battle between Jiang Tian and the two seasoned nascent soul stage cultivators. He thought about it and found it ridiculous sometimes. In the past, Jiang Tian was just an ant in the lower worlds. He wouldn't even look at him. But then, after witnessing Jiang Tian's two battles, he had to accept the reality. Jiang Tian was much better than him in many aspects. He was even comparable to Qing Aojuan and Luo Changshan, who were ranked at the top of the God of War role. Old bastard, old bitch, go to hell. As soon as Jiang Tian stepped on the air, the space within a 10-mile radius collapsed. With his feet as a circle, many black spatial cracks spread out in all directions, like black snakes slithering around and wriggling around. Borrowing the recoil force of the space, Jiang Tian soared into the sky like a dragon. The divine will spun and the Kun Ping moved at extreme speed. Like a comet piercing through the sun, he traversed 100 miles in the blink of an eye. the law of gung metal condensed into a peerless heavenly saber and slashed down. How terrifying was Zhang Tian's laws of metal. They came from a divine-level cultivation art and were born from the gung metal immortal body. In other words, Zhang Tian's laws of metal could kill all deities or divine princes at the same level. Even in the central galaxy, the deity realm and the divine realm, where cultivation civilizations were flourishing and talents were abundant, his laws of metal were close to the Grand Tao. They were supreme and flawless. Even on remote planets and barren lands, they wouldn't be affected at all. Zhang Tian could even kill divine princes and nascent soul stage cultivators, not to mention Kumu and Qin Shuang. In fact, everyone felt that Zhang Tian's slash was extremely powerful. Such perfectly condensed metal laws. They're flawless, indestructible, boundless and sharp to the extreme. They're too terrifying. Even Wu Shujian was startled and widened his eyes. How can he be so strong? His laws are much more powerful than the inheritances from the ruins of deities. Deadwood Heavenly Monarch was even more alarmed. He let out a strange cry and wanted to break free from his physical body to escape. You can't escape. Stop him. Qin Shuang knew that Zhang Tian's speed was too fast, and there was no way he could escape. He gritted his teeth and stamped his feet. His eyes were filled with determination. His hands moved quickly, casting long frost sky again. Instantly, chains of laws, shields, weapons and even fortresses formed by frost appeared out of thin air, spanning across 5 kilometers in the sky. But all of this was useless. At that moment, indescribably terrifying laws surged through the ancient demon abyss like a tide. The sun and moon reversed, the firmament crumbled and everything within 1,000 miles trembled. It was as though a Kunpeng had struck 3,000 miles, or as though an ancient god had split the chaos apart. Even though everyone was 100 miles away, they still felt that their bodies, divine souls and golden cores were about to be torn apart by Zhang Tian's laws of metal, endless blade auras and rolling blade qi. That feeling was like when the residents of Hiroshima faced the earth-shattering nuclear explosion. That energy was destructive and no one could resist or stop it. Swish. The sharp, condensed saber of the law of gung metal, with the sacred air of immortality, cut through the chains of the law of ice, shields and fortresses as easily as cutting tofu. Qin Shuang was cut in half in midair. Her nascent soul, which was only an inch long, crawled out of her head and screamed, trying to escape. But it was immediately minced into pieces by the rolling auras of the saber. Even the soul inside did not have the chance to escape. At the same time, Heavenly Lord Kumu had just come out of his Dharma form and turned into a black beam of light, flying as fast as lightning. There was a loud bang behind him. It was the sound of a 1,000-foot mountain and endless earth exploding, but Kumu didn't even look at it. After all, saving his life was more important. He sped up and flashed 1,000 miles away. He flashed among the flying rocks and flashed towards the entrance of the abyss like a black beam of light. But then an unparalleled devouring power came and he flew out uncontrollably. He couldn't get rid of it no matter what cultivation arts he used. He couldn't help but be terrified. What? He sensed the law of black hole? No, it's not a law. It's even the Great Way. Is he a soul formation cultivator? However, it was too late to say anything. He quickly fell into the black vortex of Zhang Tian's Taotai returning energy, and as if he was crushed by a millstone he turned into fine powder, turning into the purest spiritual power Zhen Yuan and essence qi and was completely devoured. Then Qin Shuang's endless cultivation, enormous Dharma power and essence blood were also devoured by Zhang Tian's vortex of Taotai. The sky was swept clean. There were mountains of corpses on the ground and blood was flowing like a sea of blood. Only Zhang Tian was left standing with his hands behind his back. His black robe was fluttering in the wind. The 10-foot divine plate behind him was rotating slowly. He was enveloped in the bright light of the divine plate, looking extremely sacred and lofty, as if a peerless god had come to the mortal world, looking down on the world. And under Zhang Tian's feet, there was a huge ravine about 30 miles long and more than a few miles wide. It was extremely deep and shocking. That was the result of Zhang Tian's slash. Chapter 1441. How is that possible? Heavenly Lord Kumu and Qin Shuang were defeated? When the dust settled, everyone could not believe what they had just seen. All of them were dumbstruck. Qin Shuang's grandson was so scared that he knelt on the ground with a plop. He was so scared that he was shivering. There was no longer any arrogance on his face. His face was full of panic. Even his worldview was shattered by Jiang Tian. Zhang Qingyang, perfected cultivator Red Tiger, and the other cultivators from Yingzhou, Baiming and Penglai were also astonished. They felt that the man in the sky wasn't human at all. Their ancestors had told them for generations that cultivators from the higher realms were not to be provoked. Their strength was great and their orthodoxy was deep. They were like the true legends of deities. Heavenly Lord Kumu could even transform a nascent soul cultivator into a nascent soul cultivator. He was also the Chancellor of the 100 Moon Academy. And yet he couldn't even withstand one slash from Kong Teichu. Besides, Qin Shuang, the living fossil of the heavenly sect, was helping him. They were completely doubting their lives. Zhang Qingyang and Red Tiger were especially glad that they didn't offend Jiang Tian. Otherwise they would have ended up in a miserable state. Glory to Senior Tai Chu. Only the two princesses Ao Jiao and Qi Liqui were so excited that they jumped up. They had already submitted to Jiang Tian and respected Jiang Tian as their master. Of course they didn't want to see Jiang Tian lose. Besides, the cultivators from the upper worlds were ruthless and they regarded the cultivators from the lower worlds as ants. If Jiang Tian lost, Heavenly Lord Kumu would never let them go. On the other hand, Long Xingnan's face was very ugly. She turned green and white as she wailed in her heart. Since Jiang Taichu could even kill Qin Shuang and Chancellor Kumu, not many people would be able to save him. He won. Yao Yu Fairy's mouth was wide open, and her beautiful face was filled with shock as if she had seen a ghost. In her heart she wanted to say that Brother Shujian had made a mistake. It was the first time that he had made a mistake. How is that possible? How terrifying. Wu Shujian himself was shocked to the extreme. He had already overestimated Jiang Tian's strength. He had been watching from the sidelines, not daring to make a move. However, it was only at this moment that he realized that what he saw of Jiang Tian's strength was only the tip of the iceberg. Jiang Tian's true strength was like an unfathomable abyss, like a towering mountain that could only be looked up at. Meanwhile, the rushing current valley shuddered violently as the power of formations rose into the sky. Various kinds of strange forces were multiplying rapidly. Rumble. The ground cracked open as if an ancient god had opened his eyes. Hot energy gushed out and rays of light shot into the sky. Those rays of light were enough to kill a golden core cultivator easily. Only nascent soul cultivators and nascent soul cultivators could barely resist it, but even their skin felt like it was about to crack. Even their protective gales or the power of their Dharma treasures couldn't withstand it. The Golden Crow's treasure is about to open. Everyone cried out in alarm. Their eyes were filled with fear and greed. They wanted to avoid the danger, but they also wanted to enter and explore. Whoosh! Jiang Tian's robe fluttered in the wind as he performed the art of the sea-calming ice god body. Waves of coldness enveloped 10 miles and blocked the heat. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor's treasure is a small grotto heaven. There are also many man-made marks in this small grotto heaven. Maybe he really has reached the soul formation level. At the same time, Jiang Tian's immortal will went into the cracks in the rushing current valley and found that there was another grotto heaven inside. When Jiang Tian scanned it with his immortal will, he was a bit shocked. The small grotto heaven wasn't big. It was only 100 miles wide. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor was indeed an ancient overlord who could compete with Ao Huang and Wu Chang. He had found a dimensional space and built a dimensional passage to build his own grotto heaven. He was indeed quite capable. Jiang Tian's spiritual consciousness clearly sensed that there were layers of restrictions operating in the Golden Crow Ancient Sovereign's small grotto heaven. Many arrays remained and were connected to the small grotto heaven. It was filled with killing intent and was extremely powerful. Even after tens of thousands of years, those ancient arrays and restrictive spells were still running and were as powerful as before. Even nascent soul cultivators would be in danger if they entered. Many terrifying energies were hiding, twisting and clashing in the grotto heaven. It was impossible to guard against them. My friend, do you want to compete with me for this treasure? Jiang Tian didn't panic. He looked at Wu Shujian and asked softly. You must be kidding, Taichu. Fellow Daoist, you have unfathomable abilities. How would I dare to compete with you? Wu Shujian bowed and didn't dare to put on airs. He was very humble. Even Yao Yu Fairy was shocked by this scene. Wu Shujian was so arrogant that he could even talk to Qing Aojuan, who was ranked first on the God of War roll. And yet he was bowing down to Kong Teichu at this moment. However, Wu Shujian knew that the overlords ranked in the top 20 on the God of War roll and the heavenly sects and families behind them couldn't do anything to Jiang Tian. Then he changed the topic and said patiently, "But Taichu, you should know that the Golden Crow's treasure is very dangerous. Legend has it that many nascent soul heavenly lords have died here. I'm willing to explore with you, Taichu. At least we can take care of each other. Taichu, you can decide how to distribute the resources and treasures we get." "Good. You're quite sensible." Jiang Tian said, "Speed is the most important thing in this exploration. How come you just wait outside? Shujian and I will go in together." "Understood." Ta Kong and the others glanced at Fairy Yao Yu and smiled meaningfully. Jiang Tian's meaning was obvious. Yao Yu Fairy would stay outside as a hostage and Wu Shujian would go in with him. If he dared to do anything, his woman would die. Wu Shujian understood this as well, but both he and Fairy Yao Yu were calm. Soon Jiang Tian and Wu Shujian turned into two streams of light and shot into the big crack at lightning speed to explore the Golden Crow's treasure. Boom boom boom. Light burst out and colorful lights bloomed. The crack slowly closed as if an ancient god had closed his eyes. It was as if it had never been there. The place gradually became peaceful again. Many cultivators left the valley of Tang under Long Pejuan's lead and rushed out of the ancient demon abyss. The truth about what had happened in the abyss quickly spread. Within Blackrock City, the tens of thousands of cultivators who had been waiting for this moment began to boil with excitement. Kong Teichu killed Elder Deadwood of the 100 Moon Academy and Qin Shuang of the Heavenly Sect of the Heilong World. Master Void of the Penglai World and many other peerless overlords have died. When the news spread, the entire Heilong world was shocked. It was like a heavy bomb that made people dizzy. Many people were stunned and couldn't believe it. God bless Taichu Heaven Lord. God bless Ingzhou World. Taichu Heaven Lord. Invincible. Qijui was stunned at first, but then he was overjoyed. Then he led the princes and princesses to prostrate and worship the heavens. Even this news spread to the ruins of immortality and to the 100 Moon Academy. In an instant, the news spread throughout 100 Moon Academy, ruins, Emperor Palace, Sky Palace, and countless immortal cultivation families and sections. When everyone heard about it, they were shocked. At this moment, Jiang Tian's name shook the ruins of immortality. Chapter 1442. Chancellor Ku Mu has been killed. Almost in the same moment that Chancellor Deadwood was killed by Jiang Tian, the news spread throughout the continent of the ruins of immortality, in an academy built on a mountain, surrounded by flowing spirit springs and a waterfall of essence energy. It was as if one was looking down from the sky. One would find that the planet was like a sun, floating in the depths of the universe. Dense astral chi surrounded it like a waterfall. The rumbling Tao laws even condensed and turned into dragons and phoenixes. There were sounds of heavenly music echoing on it. It was a planet, but it was still so bright and dazzling that it even covered the stars next to it. In terms of area, it was 1,000 or 10,000 times the size of Earth. One could feel the surging spirit chi on it even across the endless starry sky. The spirit chi on the planet was too rich. It was at least 100 times denser than in worlds like Dragon Gate and Ingzhou. Besides, there were ancient immortal palaces and temples floating on the continent. Under the clouds, it looked like an ancient heavenly court. In fact, it was the heavenly court in Huaxia's myths and legends. The ancient immortal land had migrated to the South Gate 2-star system tens of thousands of years ago and was colonized by the South Gate galaxy, becoming the territory of the Ruins Emperor. Although Chancellor Ku Mu no longer held any position in the 100 Moons Academy, any chancellor, even if they had abdicated, would still be highly valued by the 100 Moons Academy and would be treated as a valuable asset. Many of the living chancellors left a copy of their life spirit tablets in 100 Moon Academy that were connected to their divine souls. Those life spirit tablets were made with high standards. Even if the chancellors traveled through worlds and were billions of miles away, they could still sense it. There were people monitoring them, but the tablets had never been extinguished for many years. After all, the chancellors were too powerful. They were the elites of the ruins of immortality in the many level 2 worlds. Their cultivation levels were above the nascent soul realm and there was no lack of soul formation realm overlords. Their strength was one thing, but the other was the golden name of 100 Moon Academy. It could be said that no one would dare to provoke anyone, let alone a chancellor, an outer sect servant or a cook, as long as they mentioned the name of 100 Moon Academy. Who's so bold? He was a chancellor personally appointed by His Majesty, the Ruins Emperor. Besides, he's a veteran nascent soul cultivator and is not far from the soul formation realm. Who can be his opponent? However, this time Chancellor Kumu was actually killed. This was simply the first time something like this had happened, and it shook the entire 100 Moons Academy. Even the dean was alarmed and demanded a thorough investigation. Did Chancellor Withered Tree drink too much? The Ingzhou world is a remote and desolate place. Why would I go there? A cultivator sneered. I heard that they are looking for the Golden Crow ancient emperor's treasure. Someone added. Hey. It's a treasure left behind by a divine transformation realm cultivator. Besides, it's been 10,000 years. It's nothing. Everyone's eyes were filled with disdain. Chancellor Kumu flaunted his prowess outside and had his eyes at the top of his head. However, among the many chancellors, he really didn't stand out and was even at the bottom. We have extracted the scene of Chancellor Kumu's death. He died in the hands of a lower realm cultivator called Kong Teichu. In the Ingzhou world. In the end, when everyone was discussing animatedly, the person in charge of monitoring brought out the scene that Chancellor Withered Tree had seen before he died. Kong Teichu? Who was it? Are they from the 6 Great Grotto Heavens? Someone was confused. In the ruins of deity, the Ruins Emperor's Palace, Sky Palace, 100 Moon Academy and the Golden Crow Guards were the direct descendants of the Ruins Emperor. They were the most loyal and powerful. However, the Ruins of Deity was vast and was a bright cultivation planet. It was beyond their reach. So, apart from them, the Ruins Emperor had also nurtured the 6 Great Grotto Heavens to suppress the major territories. The sects and families in those Grotto Heavens had once followed the Ruins Emperor to open up new territories. They had even experienced the battle with the Wanderers of the Deity Ground. Their status was extremely respected, second only to the royal family. The city lords and other sects had to admit defeat. The 6 Great Grotto Heavens have already announced that this matter has nothing to do with them. An elder said. Something happened in the Ingzhou world. This small place should belong to the Billow world. More specifically, it's under the jurisdiction of the Dragon Gate. A major cultivator suggested casually, why don't we call Long Baxia over and ask him about it? If he can't figure out where he is, just kill him. There's news that Long Baxia of the Dragon Gate of the Billow world has already entered the Ruins Emperor's palace to meet His Majesty. It's said that it has something to do with Kong Teichu. Someone said. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, news after news spread out, shaking the entire ruins of immortality. It was as if the earth had been broken and the sky had been broken. Kong Teichu is a human from Earth. He has crossed the galaxy to come here. The worlds under the Billow world have fallen. The nascent soul of Jade Lake has been wiped out. Kong Teichu is less than 30 years old and he has already surpassed the nascent soul level. The legend of a pregnant deity on Earth might be true. The Ruins Emperor's palace is furious. It's said that the Sword God has been alerted and thinks that Long Baxia is incompetent. The Ruins Emperor's palace has ordered the White Python Guards to go to the Billow world, the Ingzhou world and other worlds to destroy the Dragon Gate and kill all of Long Baxia's descendants as punishment. They've also asked all the heavenly sects and families in the Billow world to search the world and capture Kong Teichu. Tiski. Even the White Python Guards, one of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor, has been mobilized. Kong Teichu is probably dead this time. I'm afraid that's only the forces on the surface. Who knows how many scouts they've sent in the dark. Some people were shocked, some gloated, some were happy and some were eager to try. Kong Teichu had surpassed the nascent soul level at such a young age and could even kill Chancellor Kumu. That had never happened in the entire Ruins of Deity. There's an opportunity to become an immortal on that barren earth. It might be true. Everything will be revealed when we capture Kong Teichu. Countless Grotto Heavens, families and sects were looking forward to it. They were paying close attention to it. If there really was an opportunity to become an immortal, they would immediately go to the ancient earth at all costs. Prince Qiuming's residence in the Ruins Emperor's palace. A man in a white robe carrying a long sword on his back stood in front of the majestic palace. Even the solemn palace couldn't contain his aura. His aura shot to the sky and his straight back was like a sword. Anyone who saw him would feel a chill down their spine. The golden armored guards around him looked at him with extreme admiration, as if they were looking at a god. Sword God. He was the #1 expert of the Ruins Emperor's palace. He was at the Soul Formation realm and could connect the heavens with a single strike. He had once subdued the 6 grotto heavens with a single strike. Without the Ruins Emperor, there were only a handful of people who could match him. Master. Prince Qiuming had a heavy expression as he walked behind Sword God and bowed respectfully. He was the 18th generation grandson of the Ruins Emperor and was known as a prince. He had already entered the mid-stage nascent soul realm and enjoyed a revered status in the Ruins Emperor's palace. He ruled over the various worlds. The Ruins Emperor had a lifespan of tens of thousands of years. Even though he was at the Soul Formation realm, he could not withstand the cruel passage of time. As time passed, his blood coagulated and his lifespan stopped, causing him to fall into a deep slumber. Now the Emperor was his 8th generation grandson, Emperor Yishur. The Ruins Emperor had already spread his family and had many children. Furthermore, they were all cultivators and had long lifespans. It was a wonder that 18 generations could discuss politics together. There were countless generations of princes and imperial descendants in the Ruins Emperor's palace, numbering in the hundreds. They were all vying for power in a bid to inherit the throne. For Prince Qiuming to be able to take the lead and obtain the right to rule over the various worlds was naturally no trifling matter. But even so, he did not dare slight Sword God in the slightest. If you fail to kill Kong Teichu and quell the lower realm's rebellion this time, you will be sentenced to death. You will probably be executed. Sword God said coldly, each word sharp. Chapter 1443. Yes, I understand. Prince Qiuming had a solemn expression. There were only a few outstanding princes. Each of them was in charge of military affairs, internal affairs, education and so on. For example, Prince Xiahe was in charge of Sky Palace. He was in charge of observing and developing the Outer Realm. Chancellor Withered Tree, the Chancellor of 100 Moon Academy, was killed by a lower world cultivator. He's truly useless. Bestow him with wealth and a posthumous title, but immediately remove his lineage from the academy and banish him to the Western Desert world. Sword God said plainly. His every move seemed to be in harmony with the Great Tao and had a hint of natural charm. Soul Formation Grand Cultivators had already surpassed the laws, touched the Great Tao and controlled the Great Tao fragments. This was perfectly reflected in Sword God. It was frightening. I understand. I believe 100 Moon Academy will also listen to you. Prince Qiuming said with a bow. Prince Qiuming knew Sword God's personality very well. Not to mention that Heavenly Lord Withered Tree was a cultivator selected from the lower world. Even if he had the true bloodline of the Ruins Emperor, he would be considered useless if he failed. Although Heavenly Lord Withered Tree is useless and has been stuck in the late-stage nascent soul realm for hundreds of years, he is still the Chancellor of Ruins Emperor's palace. Killing him is equivalent to offending the Ruins Emperor's palace. If we don't kill him, where will our dignity be? Moreover, this kid is involved in the secret of Earth's immortal pregnancy. If we can know the truth, we will have the upper hand. Therefore, I'll order the Golden Crow Guards, White Python Guards and Dark Crow Guards to search the entire Hylon world. If we can't find Kong Teichu, the leaders of the 3 guards will bring their heads to me. After saying that, Sword God waved his sleeves. The Great Tao rumbled as he tore through space and left. Prince Qiuming gasped when he heard that. He bowed deeply in the direction Sword God left. Yes, master. When he raised his head, there was already a trace of astonishment in his eyes. It seemed like the White Python Guards were just a cover. The real trump card was the leader of the 9 guards, the Golden Crow Guards with the strongest combat power, and the Dark Crow Guards who were proficient in assassination. These 3 guards were the divine armies of the Ruins Emperor. Each of them had the ability to destroy a level 2 world. Now that they were all deployed, even the Izhou world. This Kong Teichu is actually so respected by the Sword God. Prince Qiu Kong exclaimed meaningfully. While all the large family clans and sects in the ruins of immortality, as well as 100 Moons Academy and Ruins Emperor Palace, were alarmed, Jiang Tian and Wu Shujian were strolling through the Golden Crow's treasure. This was an ancient bronze palace. Its surface was mottled with copper rust and it was filled with the aura of time. Some places had already collapsed. Even the dojo of a soul formation expert could not withstand the vicissitudes of time. The bronze palace was built by the Golden Crow ancient sovereign with all his might. He killed the Ao sovereign Ao Wuchang and replaced him as the demon monarch. This was his palace and there would be countless living beings worshipping him. However, he did not succeed and was killed by Ao Wui's absolute heaven sword. Even when he was about to die, he still wanted to escape to his own palace. He probably still wanted to be the emperor even if he died. Jiang Tian couldn't help but sigh. Cultivators were very interesting. It was human and interesting. The Golden Crow ancient emperor was already in the soul formation realm and had a lifespan of 10,000 years. It was not enough for him to control the life and death of others. He still wanted to be the emperor. It was hard to get rid of the temptation of power. Swish, swish, swish. Jiang Tian flew straight into the depths of the palace like a fleeting shadow. The scenery around him was constantly changing. There was wind, thunder, earth, fire, the ice of the 9 hells and illusions of demons. Even space was in disorder, folding, twisting and cutting. Every step was filled with killing intent and it was extremely dangerous. Earth, fire, thunder array, 9 hell, ice seal, mental demon illusion array. Jiang Tian said the name softly. He looked very calm. Every step he took was precise and ingenious. He had cultivated for 10,000 years in his previous life and he was like an encyclopedia. He could see the loopholes of those arrays at a glance. And Wu Shujian was scared out of his wits. He was in dire straits, battered and exhausted. Those arrays were very high level and could easily kill nascent soul cultivators. Twice he was almost killed by the formation and one of his arms was almost chopped off. The wandering cultivators of the ancient earth are really extraordinary. What a terrifying array! Wu Shujian exclaimed. Even in the ruins of immortality, these formations and restrictions were rare. And they were all done by the ancient emperor of the Golden Crows. The ancient emperor of the Golden Crows wasn't a real king of monsters. He only called himself that. He wanted to go against Ao Wuchang but he was killed in the end. This kid is even proficient in arrays. Follow him. That's right. Wu Shujian saw that Jiang Tian flew forward like a butterfly and didn't touch any arrays. He was envious and then quickly followed Jiang Tian. The divine powers of the ancient earth sages were still a bit behind. They weren't really developed. These formations are very crude. They've long been abandoned in the central galaxy. Jiang Tian shook his head. It wasn't that he had forgotten his ancestors, but that the cultivation civilization was also a process of development. It was like when you lived through the age of engines and then looked at animals pulling carts, you would naturally feel backward. Suddenly, Jiang Tian arrived above the core of the palaces. He performed the astral steps and calculated with his fingers. Finally, he found the core of the arrays and arrays. Jiang Tian stomped his feet and shouted, "Open! Go! Rumble!" The entire group of bronze palaces shook. Then the power of the arrays, the wind, thunder, earth, fire, ice and even illusions disappeared. A vast palace appeared in the surroundings. 49 thick flame pillars stood in great numbers. In the middle of the palace, an old man wearing a golden crown and a golden crow yellow robe sat cross-legged. The old man was emitting a bright aura and his skin seemed to be made of gold. His hair was red and even his eyebrows were red like angry flames. He emanated a scorching hot aura that even Wu Shujian, a nascent soul genius, couldn't handle. His skin felt like it was about to crack and his mouth went dry. The old man's eyes were closed and his chest was still moving up and down. He was still breathing and there were 2 flames in his nostrils as if he were just sleeping. The ancient emperor of the Golden Crows. He was the master of the entire grotto heaven. But on his chest, there was a sword mark that had been slashed across his entire body. Even after countless years, the indestructible energy spread open his body and left an inch of space between the 2 halves of the Golden Crow ancient emperor's body. So many treasures. Wu Shujian glanced around and was envious. Then the Golden Crow ancient emperor suddenly opened his eyes and yelled, "Heavenly sword! Who exactly are you to the tyrant Wuchang?" Crack! Wu Shujian was so scared that he fell to the ground like a toad. Is the Golden Crow ancient emperor still alive? He's a real soul formation grand cultivator. This was a great terror. Wu Shujian was so scared that he was trembling. His heart was filled with fear and anguish. He was also filled with endless regret. He should not have come in just now. Who could stop a soul formation cultivator? Chapter 1444. Yes, I'm not dead, but I can't heal the wounds caused by Wuchang's heavenly sword. In fact, I didn't set up those restrictive spells but Ao Wuchang. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor's eyes were golden with flames circling around them. It was like a divine lamp that illuminated the void. He sneered and said, "My Dharma power is declining. I can only break the restrictive spells and arrays once every 600 years, so that the cultivators can come here and be my food." "What? You're using yourself as bait? You're here to catch cultivators and kill them?" Wu Shujian suddenly came to a realization and shuddered. There were indeed many heavenly treasures there, especially the spirit herbs of the fire element. They were growing crazily and there were many rare ores. There was even a complete bronze chariot with a heavy cannon on it, which was a Daoist artifact and could kill a soul formation cultivator. "I heard that the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor guarded the sun in the ancient times and rode the sun-shooting divine cannon. He was so powerful that he could kill deities. I didn't believe it at first, but I've seen it today. It's indeed true." Wu Shujian felt uneasy. This was because there were many corpses lying around in the ancient bronze hall. Their robes and protective artifacts were all rotten. No one knew how long they had been there. There were dozens of corpses, some of which belonged to human cultivators, some of which belonged to flood dragons and phoenixes. Judging from the toughness of these corpses, they were all at the nascent soul level. No one in the Yingzhou world has reached the nascent soul level for thousands of years. It seems that the deceased should be the same as Qin Shuang, the heavenly lord of Deadwood. They were cultivators from the upper bound who secretly came to explore the world below. But unexpectedly, they ended up losing their lives and became the resources and blood food for the ancient emperor of Golden Crows, who extended his lifespan to tens of thousands of years. Wu Shujian hid behind Jiang Tian and wanted to cry. He regretted going in and meeting the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor who was still alive. He didn't dare to face him directly. Of course, the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor couldn't live for 10,000 years as a soul formation cultivator, but he could choose to stop his life to reduce the consumption of his true essence. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor's might of a divine transformation realm cultivator was too powerful. With the true fire of the sun and the shards of the great path rumbling, no one dared to provoke him even though he was injured. Rumor had it that the Golden Crows were also ancient demons that were on par with the Immerse and phoenixes. They grew on the Fusang divine tree and they took in and spat out the essence of the sun. Their bodies contained the essence of the leaf flame, and they were incomparably powerful. The flames refined the heavens and turned all things into ashes. "You want me to become your resource? You sure talk big," Jiang Tian said disdainfully. "Not to mention that you're already heavily injured and half dead. Even if you were at your peak, I could still kill you with the absolute heaven sword in my hand." On the 18 islands, Jiang Tian had killed more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords with only his physical strength. Beside the Tang Valley, Jiang Tian used his Dharma form and Dharma laws to kill Jiuzhe, an experienced nascent soul cultivator and an unparalleled heavenly lord. However, this was still not Jiang Tian's limit. One had to know that Jiang Tian still had the real celestial artifact, the absolute heaven sword. If he activated it and unleashed his full power, he might even be able to fight against a half-step soul formation cultivator. "Give me your annihilation flame bead." Jiang Tian looked at the bead floating between the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor's fingers. The bead was already glittering even before it unleashed its Dharma power. Red heavenly fire could be seen flowing inside and a powerful fire energy was rolling within 1,000 feet. The red fire energy was extremely hot, as if it came from the core of a star. It could melt golden cores and burn nascent soul cultivators. Even soul formation grand cultivators would die immediately if they were caught in it. "Why do you have the absolute heaven sword?" The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor's eyes were burning, but his tone was unusually cold and there was a hint of anger. This treasure sword was used by Ao Emperor Wuchang. Ao Wuchang once used it to cut off the ancient path of the universe, but then he pushed it into the deity trap array on Earth with an array and used it as the core of the array. "Are you one of the Ruins Emperor's dogs? Have you already broken into Earth and destroyed the deity trap array? Aren't you Ao Emperor Wuchang's mortal enemy? Isn't losing Earth and the deity trap array what you want to see the most?" Jiang Tian sneered. "Kid, I'm the one asking you, not the other way around." The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor grunted. He didn't move at all and only released his energy, which knocked Wu Shujian 10 miles away. He lay on the ground and spat out blood. How terrifying. The power of a soul formation cultivator is too powerful. He's indeed a grand cultivator. Wu Shujian was terrified. He lay on the ground and pretended to be dead. He didn't mind being covered in dust. Staying alive was the most important thing, and he didn't want to offend the Golden Crow ancient emperor. Soul formation grand cultivators had been studying Dharma laws for countless years and had a deep understanding of Dharma laws. They had reached the peak and reached the limit. They had already merged the Dharma laws into their bodies and seen the clues of the Grand Tao, even controlling the fragments of the Grand Tao. Every move they made was accompanied by the sound of the Grand Tao, which merged with the world and formed a territory with divine laws. If they could turn that area into their own divine realm, their attack power would certainly be terrifying. They could easily kill a nascent soul cultivator with a snap of their fingers. Boom. Under the terrifying energy, Zhang Tian was also pushed back a few hundred meters. The bronze palace shook violently, and he even left some terrifying footprints. At the moment, even though Zhang Tian had activated his gung metal immortal constitution, he was still suppressed. After all, he was still a nascent soul cultivator, and the difference between their levels was too great. If he were a normal sacred body, even a nascent soul cultivator would have been crushed on the spot and his divine soul would have been destroyed. Old man, you're about to die and you have one foot in the coffin. How dare you yell at me? Today I Kong Techu will kill you. Zhang Tian yelled and took out the heavenly sword. Whoosh. The moment the heavenly sword was taken out, the grotto heaven and the endless palaces in 100-mile radius seemed to have been struck by lightning. The sharp blade aura shone through a 100-mile radius. The extremely hot temperature, which could turn a foundation establishment cultivator into a pool of blood, suddenly dropped rapidly. As the sword chi swept across, white frost formed on the bronze palace and many flames flickered, as if they were about to be extinguished. Zhang Tian was just a bystander. When he was confident that he could win, he wouldn't use Dharma artifacts. He would use the Dharma laws, the forbidden area, or even his body to kill his opponent. He had cultivated for 10,000 years, and he knew that only a life-and-death battle could stimulate his potential, strengthen his mind, and improve his power. So he always challenged his limits. But things were different this time. The ancient emperor of the Golden Crow was a real soul formation grand cultivator who had experienced countless terrifying battles. He was the most dangerous overlord Zhang Tian had met since he was reborn. Zhang Tian, of course, had to fight steadily. It's indeed the heavenly sword. Bastard, how dare you break the deity trap array? You've completely exposed the ancient earth. You deserve to die. The ancient emperor of the Golden Crow shouted and pointed at Zhang Tian. Children, kill to your heart's content. Tear this bastard into 1,000 pieces for me, crush him into flesh and blood essence, and turn him into the resources for your cultivation and evolution. Boom. The bronze palace shook and many golden bodies rose from the ground like seedlings from the soil, becoming bigger and bigger. What? There are 10 ancient emperors of the Golden Crow. In the distance, Wuxia, who was pretending to be dead, was shocked and almost fainted. Chapter 1445. In the main hall. A total of 10 avatars of the Golden Crow ancient emperor appeared in all directions. They had the same facial features and aura as the main body, but their outfits, ages, and artifacts were all different. There were also young and old ones. They were surrounded by fire and their energy shot to the sky, like suns in the sky, emitting dazzling light. Wherever it passed, under the terrifyingly high temperature, the ancient bronze palace began to crack. Cracks that weren't shocking appeared, and some even melted, turning into flowing bronze liquid. Thousands of clones? That's not right. I heard that only Void Return overlords can be reborn with a drop of blood and make clones that are indestructible. But isn't he a soul formation cultivator? Wuxia mumbled to himself as if he had seen the most unbelievable thing. Moreover, this kind of cloning divine ability wasn't something that just anyone could control. Rumor had it that only the eternal orthodoxies and peerless great sects in the Southern Gate 1 star possessed such a technique. Creation substance. Zhang Tian scanned with his immortal will and said with a smile, Golden Crow Ancient Emperor, you're so lucky to have obtained a creation substance. You can reproduce with a drop of blood and form clones. Creation substance was also known as ever-changing substance. To put it simply, this substance had no attributes at all, and its appearance was not fixed either. Using the bloodline seed of the original body or even a divine soul seed, it could change and reproduce life and have all kinds of divine powers of the original body. It was the best choice to rebuild the body and make it into a residence. In the classic novel, investiture of the gods, perfected Tai used 2 lotus flowers and 3 lotus leaves. Then he used his golden core to place Neza's soul into it. He chanted the resurrection method and pushed Neza's soul into the lotus, reviving it and helping Neza recover his body. Even though that was just a novel, the magical lotus actually had the shadow of a creation substance. Creation substances were very rare. They weren't even seen on the bright cultivation planets in the central galaxy. There wasn't even a single piece on a planet. Besides, even if they saw it, many people wouldn't be able to recognize it. This was because it could be a rock or it could also be a wildflower. It was formless and easy to overlook, making it difficult to discover. That was why it was priceless. You have a good eye. With this material I can create 10 incarnations. Even if I can't disintegrate the absolute heaven sword scar and restore my corporeal body, I can still take over the hut and leave at any time. The Golden Crow ancient emperor looked arrogant and sneered. They've swallowed the blood of countless nascent soul stage cultivators. Every one of them is in the nascent soul stage and carries the bloodline of the ancient Golden Crow. Killing you is as easy as killing a dog for them. He didn't even move. He used his immortal will, and a clone of the Golden Crow ancient emperor immediately charged toward Zhang Tian with a sword. The huge sword slashed down, leaving a long trail of fire that burned the sky. Bang! Zhang Tian rushed over and stomped down, directly stepping on his face, stomping him to the ground. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and his head gradually cracked open, finally exploding with a loud bang. The avatar's head was burning on the floor of the ancient bronze palace. Bronze water flowed, forming a human-shaped depression. Kill. Another avatar of the Golden Crow ancient emperor charged forward furiously. A long spear surrounded by sunfire pierced through the sky and burned the space, stabbing towards Zhang Tian's back. This time Zhang Tian was even more domineering. He slapped down and the giant golden essence chi palm pressed down like a mountain, smashing half of the avatar's head into his chest. His mouth was blocked, leaving only his eyes outside. Golden Crow ancient emperor, you'd better hand over the annihilation flame bead immediately. Zhang Tian walked forward with his sword and took the initiative to approach an old incarnation. His face was full of disdain as he looked at the furious Golden Crow ancient emperor and said nonchalantly, "It's not that easy to disintegrate the absolute heaven sword scar. When I destroy all of your clones you will lose everything and die for sure." Many of the avatars were conscious and looked at Zhang Tian in shock. Even Wuxia was stunned. He had never thought that Zhang Tian would be so powerful that he wasn't even afraid of an ancient emperor. The Golden Crow ancient emperor had once wrestled with Ao Wuchang and was on par with the 9-headed dragon emperor, Jiao Rui. He had been famous in the ancient times of the deity ground and during the era of interstellar travel. Those avatars weren't simple. They were perfect and full of energy. Besides, they had the inheritance of the Golden Crow ancient emperor, so they were extremely difficult to deal with. You're just a piece of trash. The ancient Golden Crows have a divine bloodline. Don't humiliate them. Bang! A Golden Crow ancient emperor stepped on the mirror-like bronze floor. His expression was cold and resolute. Golden aura lingered around him and flames burned the sky. You're just a Golden Crow. Don't think of yourselves as ancient sages. You're still too weak. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Zhang Tian's mouth. He was not afraid at all. The Golden Crow Palace will be your burial ground. Unfortunately, there's no soil to bury you. No, we'd better make the best use of everything and eat you alive. That avatar was number 9. He was still very young and looked like the Golden Crow ancient emperor when he was in his prime. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes and extraordinary temperament, as if he were a true god who was bathing in flames and guarding the sun. He turned into a streak of golden light and rushed over, a palm striking out towards Zhang Tian. Relying on his vigorous blood and qi, his powerful physique, his speed was extremely fast. He wanted to heavily injure Zhang Tian and more importantly humiliate him. Bang! Zhang Tian used the Gung golden palm to meet this attack, releasing a loud and clear sound. Golden blood splashed outwards. This young clone's right palm was blasted apart, completely crushed. He yelled and his broken hand was regenerated. He turned into a beam of golden light and rushed out. Golden blood with flames spat out fell on the bronze floor, leaving many holes. Damn it, I'm afraid I'll never get his sword. Wuxia was shocked. His impression of Jiang Tian was renewed. The ancient Golden Crow clan's physical bodies were extremely powerful, and number 9 was at his peak, comparable to the Golden Crow ancient emperor of the past, yet he actually suffered a great loss in a single exchange. Just how terrifying was Jiang Tian's physique? The battle between the Golden Crow ancient emperor's 9th clone and Jiang Tian erupted, reaching the climax right from the start. The scene was astonishing, their auras reaching into the rainbow, the sun and moon losing their light. The true sun fire engulfed the sky as if it had stirred up the sun. Golden sacred fire poured down and turned into a boundless sea of fire. Number 9 no longer dared to face the attack with his physical body. He no longer fought in close combat and used his magic power to suppress. However, Jiang Tian was not afraid at all. His actions were smooth and easy. An ice-like law shot out and wisps of it extinguished the true sun flame, causing the temperature to plummet. This was the effect of the sea-calming ice divine body. It was refined using a divine material, the sea-calming pearl, and it was connected to Jiang Tian's bloodline. It wasn't completely refined, and it was equivalent to the fusion of a magical treasure and a golden core. Die, you bastard! A loud roar came from the Golden Crow ancient emperor's mouth. All of a sudden, a glaring fiery light flew out. Divine trees wrapped in flames were uprooted from the ground. The huge mulberries were like the sun, and the leaves were like flaming heavenly blades. They were resplendent and dazzling. Among them, there were golden crows that had yet to transform and were flying in circles while spitting out flames. There were 81 trees in total, and they were going to trap Jiang Tian. This is the Fusang divine tree of the Golden Crow ancient emperor. I'm also a Chinese alligator. I've even used my trump card. It's second only to that mysterious flame bead. Wuxia was shocked and exclaimed. Chapter 1446. There were many bloody legends about those divine trees. Back on Earth, during the era of interstellar wanderings, the ancient emperor of the Golden Crows had trapped countless nascent soul heavenly lords and soul formation grand cultivators with those trees. He killed them inside, burning their blood into flames and burning their bodies into ashes. Even their nascent souls and divine treasures were destroyed. He had already lost a few clones that day, which was an unbearable loss. He was enraged and took out the tree, which could be called a Dao artifact. He wanted to kill Jiang Tian and make him his resource. Perhaps with a freak like Jiang Tian as a resource, he might be able to fulfill his long-cherished wish of dissolving the heaven-extinguishing sword mark and restoring his body. The Golden Crow ancient emperor's plan was ingenious. Jiang Tian was using the metal element physique. Although it was powerful, it was most afraid of fire. His Fusang divine tree contained the essence of fire, so it was certainly easy to kill Jiang Tian. The 9th clone wasn't affected at all and could even use the fire energy of the Fusang divine tree. It was like a robot with more power, so it had a high chance of winning. At the same time, flames appeared in the mouths of the 3-legged golden crows and their entire bodies turned into flames. The solar true fire quickly filled their mouths and then spurted out like fire dragons, turning into countless fire pillars that penetrated the sky and went towards Jiang Tian, trying to burn Jiang Tian into ashes. He's just a nascent soul cultivator. How can he be compared to a nascent soul cultivator? What's more, he even used Master's Fusang divine tree. We're destined to follow the emperor of the ancients and jump out of this grotto heaven and this abyss to see the world. A few clones around looked at Jiang Tian mockingly, as if they thought he would definitely die. We're doomed. I'm afraid I'll be in trouble after Kong Techu dies. Unfortunately, the grotto heaven's gate is closed and there are many restrictions and arrays. I can't get out at all. Wuxia beat his chest and stomped his feet. It was too late for regrets and he was in extreme despair. Originally, he also had a plan in mind. When Jiang Tian was in danger, he made a move against Jiang Tian and snatched the absolute heaven sword. He was known as the sword fanatic. He was obsessed with swordsmanship and ancient swords. He valued the absolute heaven sword even more than the Golden Crow's treasure. Who would have thought that the Golden Crow ancient emperor was still alive? His power was still there and he even had many incarnations. It was as if he had jumped into a fire pit and gone for wool but came home shorn. Even the Golden Crow ancient emperor had a smug smile on his face. Do you think that I only have one golden core and one constitution? Vermilion bird divine body. Jiang Tian held the heaven-extinguishing sword and his body swayed. A 10-foot wheel appeared behind him and spun like a galaxy. The red sparrow golden core let out a thunderous sound. Rumble. Zhang Tian instantly turned into a strange man with a human head and a bird god. He was 100 zhang tall and his aura soared into the sky. It was as if he had merged with the Dharma self. The vermilion bird divine body wrapped tightly around his original body. Flames burned the sky as if they were heavenly flames collected from the depths of the universe. The flames were extremely vigorous and were even 10 times stronger than the number 9 avatar. This person is simply a freak. His disc-like golden core has a few golden cores and their corresponding constitutions and energies are completely different. This is the first time something like this has ever happened. Wu Xian and the other incarnations yelled. Even the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor revealed a strange expression. Even with his 10,000 years of life experience, he had never seen such a strange situation. But the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor calmed down quickly and gritted his teeth. So what if you have a fiery golden core and a constitution? I'll just kill you slowly. After a long time I can still exhaust you to death. Do you think that's all I'm capable of? You've underestimated me, Kong Teichu. Zhang Tian laughed and suddenly formed a hand seal. The wheel spun again. Sea-calming ice god rise. Boom. The sea-calming ice god Dharma form was like an ice giant. It emitted an extremely cold aura as if it had been blown from the depths of hell. It could even freeze the space and was much more terrifying than a perfect forbidden realm. Zhang Tian directly froze number 9's incarnation and the surrounding 300 meters of space. No flame could touch Zhang Tian at all. But this was only the beginning. Gengjin Immortal rise. Thunder Slaughter Divine Body rise. Kunping rise. Earth Dragon rise. Taotai rise. Along with Zhang Tian's roars, 9 towering Dharma forms rose from the ground. They were incomparably solid. One flickered with golden light, one was filled with lightning, one had wings that were as light as a dream, one was surrounded by black water, one held a huge cauldron that was as heavy as a mountain, and one was even surrounded by Dharma laws. A forbidden zone was formed. What? At this moment Wu Xian was so shocked that he almost jumped up. There was only one thought in his mind. I've been fucked by a dragon pig. I definitely won't be able to get his peerless sword. He's too powerful. What? Even the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow was stunned as he felt how terrifying Zhang Tian was. Most of these Dharma forms had produced Dharma laws and formed forbidden realms. Besides, the 9 Dharma forms were somehow compatible with the heavenly laws and seemed to be able to transform with each other. They were flawless and indestructible. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow was more frightened and stressed when he faced Zhang Tian at the moment than when he faced the Wuchangao emperor. Zhang Tian wasn't even a nascent soul cultivator at the moment, but he gave the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow a terrifying feeling that he could move mountains, fill oceans, create rivers, refine stars, shatter the moon and tear the sky apart. He wasn't a soul formation cultivator, but he was more powerful than a deity. Fellow Daoist Golden Crow, I have 9 different Dharma forms and 9 different divine power laws. I wonder if you can withstand them? Zhang Tian stood on the 9 divine bodies with his hands behind his back. Dharma laws were boiling and forbidden realms were intertwined. He looked at the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow emotionlessly. He had 9 divine bodies, 9 divine powers and Dharma laws. They were ever-changing and countered each other. Their power didn't stack but increased exponentially. Besides, he had the Taotai returning to essence and the Gengjin immortality true seal. He could use them as he wished, far surpassing the Dharma laws and forbidden realms of ordinary nascent soul cultivators. Meanwhile, all the clones of the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow hadn't gotten rid of the mold of his original body. They still had fire elemental divine powers and Dharma laws, so their changes were limited. They were completely suppressed by Zhang Tian. Even Wu Xian thought that the ancient emperor of the Golden Crow would have to give in after Zhang Tian completely unleashed his power this time. But unexpectedly, so your name is Kong Teichu. The ancient emperor of the Golden Crow didn't show any fear or retreat at all. Instead he said with endless determination, you're indeed a genius, far more powerful than the paragons of the ancient times. You're very good and very strong. But today I'm going to kill you here even if I have to give up the hope of seeing the sun again. As he spoke he casually waved his hand. Numerous fusang trees, numerous 3-legged golden crows, and numerous ancient emperor clones charged fearlessly towards Zhang Tian. Each of them displayed their ultimate techniques and fought with their lives on the line. Stubborn. Zhang Tian pulled a taut face and didn't hold back anymore. The red sparrow divine body rushed forward. Its giant wings were like heavenly blades and its giant claws were like steel hooks. With a sound, the spirit embryos of the three clones were crushed and their nascent souls died. Flang. The divine body of Gengjin immortality, true god, was like a golden ancient emperor. The blade auras were everywhere and the Fusang divine trees were all cut down. Many three-legged golden crows screamed and jumped into the sky, trying to escape, but they were blocked by the sea-calming ice god. They were completely frozen and fell like ice sculptures shaped like flames. Oh god! Wu Shujian yelled as if he had seen a god. When the Tao Tai returns to the origin was used, it was even more terrifying. A giant whirlpool with a radius of 10 miles appeared like a primitive black hole, swallowing all the fiery light energy of the Fusang divine trees and three-legged golden crows. Not a single drop was left and all of it went into Zhang Tian's divine disc. Go to hell. In the end, Zhang Tian held the absolute heaven sword in his hand and soared into the sky like a dragon. He slashed down at the golden crow ancient emperor. Streaks of sword light that were like waterfalls that could cut through the heavens pressed down. Chapter 1447. Block it. The golden crow ancient emperor roared. Layers of flames gushed out from his body, revealing the phantoms of the golden crows of the three races. In the end, his entire body was like a huge fireball, illuminating 100 miles. The ancient bronze palace within a radius of 10 miles melted and flowed like wax. The huge bronze pillars bent down. Obviously, he had activated the divine treasures and the golden crow bloodline in his body to the extreme. But it was useless. The heavenly annihilation sword was too terrifying. It was a deity artifact. The fire shield was broken by the sword aura as soon as it was formed. Even the fire Dao fragments were immediately destroyed. In the end, the sword auras slashed the ancient emperor of the golden crow, leaving deep wounds on his body. Golden blood flowed and the fire flickered. He seemed to be about to explode. Flames were burning and blood was spreading. The ancient emperor of the golden crow was already burning his foundation to defend himself. Damn it, I can't hold on any longer. Fuck, the difference in power is too big. Why don't you fight with your life and injure Kong Teichu? Then I can get the best sword. Wu Shujian's face was a mixture of joy and worry. His eyebrows furrowed and relaxed from time to time. Flying swords silently appeared behind him, wanting to launch a sneak attack. Emperor Zhongli. Emperor Ao Wucheng. Everyone, I can't be forgiven. I was the one who attracted the extraterrestrial fiends and caused the destruction of the deity ground. Suddenly, the ancient emperor of the golden crow shed golden tears of blood. He was filled with madness, regret and determination as he shouted to the sky. Now, the deity trap array has been destroyed and the ancient earth has fallen. Even your Dharma treasure, the heavenly annihilation sword, has been taken away. I'm in so much pain that I want to die. I only want to go with you. I'm only worried that you won't recognize me. He gripped the bead of annihilation flame tightly and glared at Zhang Tian hatefully. However, I'll take down as many of the ruins emperor and his dogs as possible. Annihilation flame bead explode. Golden crow divine beings burn. Senior, please wait. Zhang Tian pondered upon hearing this. In the blink of an eye, his figure came to a stop as he withdrew the heaven-shattering sword and said, I'm a visitor from ancient earth, Kong Teichu. I'm here to trample the numinous firmaments, destroy the ruins emperor's palace, and slay the ruins emperor's dog head to avenge the ancient sages. What? Are you from ancient earth? Ancient earth didn't fall? The golden crow ancient emperor stared at Zhang Tian in disbelief. Exactly. I got the absolute heaven sword from the great Dao seal left behind by Ao Huang Wuchang in the Immortal Trap Formation. As he spoke, Zhang Tian quickly recounted everything that had happened. Woo. Late Emperor Zhongli, brother Wuchang, did you hear that? Ancient earth was not lost, and even its spiritual aura was about to recover. Some of the young talents have inherited your will. They have ascended to the sky and crossed 4 light years to come here. They want to show their swords and take back our deity land. They want to create a new world and do what we wanted to do but didn't dare to do, what we dared to do but didn't succeed. The golden crow ancient emperor suddenly knelt on the ground and cried. His body kept trembling and he was extremely sad. Golden blood flowed from his wounds. My friend, there seems to be something else going on. The truth of history might not be as simple as what people say. Wuxia silently put away the numerous flying swords, tidied his clothes, and used a cleansing talisman to wash away the bloodstains and black ash on his body. He once again transformed into his handsome appearance with red lips, white teeth, delicate features, and white clothes fluttering in the wind. He slowly walked over, frowned, and said in a serious manner. Zhang Tian also felt that something was strange, but he didn't ask immediately. He stood there without saying a word, waiting for the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor to calm down. In the end, when the Golden Crow Ancient Emperor stopped crying, Zhang Tian asked, "Why didn't Ao Wuchang kill you back then? He had the absolute heaven sword and was more powerful than you. Why did he show mercy?" For tens of thousands of years, many ordinary people and cultivators thought that Ao Wuchang and I were fighting for the throne. You have underestimated us. In fact, many soul formation sages of the ancient times were able to rest on mountains, draw rivers, and live for tens of thousands of years. This kind of ability naturally transcended worldly affairs. Why would they care about the struggle for power? The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor looked arrogant and said, "Ao Wuchang and I are actually fighting for power. We have different ideas, and it's also related to the past of the heavenly courts." "How so?" Zhang Tian asked. In the ancient times, there were several worlds around the ancient earth. The heavenly courts in the deity ground, the sacred hall in heavenly state, and the Buddhist kingdom in Westland. There used to be a fight between the three worlds. It was called the Great War of the Three Paths. It was also called the Great War of the Three Worlds. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor's lifespan was extremely long. He had experienced and witnessed many ancient secrets. In order to win the fight, the heavenly courts in the deity ground excavated cultivation resources and killed monsters on a large scale. Many spirit veins disappeared and the spirit chi was depleted. Countless spirit herbs, spirit medicines, and spirit beasts went extinct. Is this the war of the three realms before the ancient catastrophe and the twilight of the gods? Zhang Tian asked. That's right. The Great War of the Three Realms happened a long time ago, about 100,000 years ago. During the Great War of the Three Realms, I was just born not long ago and was just a little cultivator. The Golden Crow Ancient Emperor said. The war between the three realms lasted for many years and people were killed. At that time there was no deity ground, no heavenly state or Elysium, only hell. In other words, they all became hell. There was only war, killing, death, and pain. More importantly, the deity ground also started killing each other. Back then, the Lord of the Heavenly Court believed that there was a traitor in the celestial land, and that there was a struggle over the path, a heretic. Therefore there were several great purges. Many deities were imprisoned or killed. His eyes were ancient, as if he had returned to the ancient times. That was an era even earlier than Emperor Zhongli. Everything was hidden in the fog of history and not many people knew about it. The purges were launched by the heavenly courts to protect the purity of the team. But in fact, it became a disaster for the deity ground and the heavenly courts. In order to show their loyalty, the deities exposed each other. Even their Tao partners, husband and wife, father and son, and comrades exposed and criticized each other. Many earth-shattering battles broke out, causing the heavens to crumble and the earth to crack. Many deities, even divine kings and quasi-emperors, were imprisoned and killed. Sorrow flashed in his eyes, as if he could see mountains of corpses and seas of blood, as if he could hear children crying and helpless pleading. The Golden Crows have always been in charge of controlling the sun and collecting the true fire of the sun. We're called the Sun Guardians. The Sun Palace is our sect. My father was the last Sun Guardian. He was only a cultivator who focused on studying the movement of the planets. He didn't fight with the world, but he still died during the purges. He sighed sorrowfully, his face full of sorrow. At that time I saw too many ugly and despicable deities in the deity ground and the heavenly courts. There were never any deities. They were just a bunch of dogs that bit each other to protect their status and power. They were even worse than animals. They were more like a nest of maggots. I gradually realized that the deity ground had fallen. It was over. There was no hope. The relationship between the deities and evil in the deity ground, the heavenly courts, and the West Earth was like the ocean and the iceberg floating on it. They were actually a giant body of water made of the same material. The iceberg was only recognized because of its different shape. In fact, it was only a small part of the entire giant body of water. The deity ground and all the cultivators in the ancient times, including the West Earth and the heavenly courts, couldn't have real moral consciousness, just like how people couldn't pull out their hair and leave the earth. To stop the war, to restore order, and to rebuild the civilization, we had to rely on forces other than the ancient cultivators. We had to rely on the extraterrestrial forces. We couldn't change our fate, because all the creatures in our civilization were full of bad habits, such as killing, suspicion, and cowardice. So, at that time I made up my mind that we had to rely on external forces to stop us from destroying ourselves and the entire world. Chapter 1448. So, the extraterrestrial fiends that invaded the deity ground, the heavenly kingdom, the West Earth and the ancient Earth were really attracted by you? Zhang Tian suddenly thought of something and asked. Yes. The Golden Crow ancient emperor said. After my father died, I was also implicated. I was expelled from the Sun Palace and exiled to a remote and desolate world. They probably thought I had a good ability to study the sun and the stars, so I was allowed to join a base of the Directorate of Astronomy in the ruins of Deity to study the weather and outer space, monitor and search for extraterrestrial life and civilizations. In fact, at that time the ancient cultivators stopped at the soul formation level. No one had reached the void return level for tens of thousands of years. But even the soul formation overlords, although they said their immortal will could travel the universe, their range was extremely limited. They couldn't even cover a light year and could only cover a small galaxy. In other words, even the masters of the heavenly courts in the deity ground and the supreme deities couldn't reach the South Gate twin stars with their immortal will. At that time, we developed a giant communication Dharma artifact that could transmit messages a light year away without any attenuation, but it was already the limit. It couldn't reach the South Gate twin stars. But you also know that the Golden Crows have been the sun guardians for generations and we have a deep understanding of the performance of the sun. And I know that the sun has a special ability which is to amplify our signal by 100 times. That day I adjusted the angle of the transmitter of the communication Dharma artifact and aimed it at the sun. That way the signal could indeed be transmitted. Zhang Tian heaved a sigh and said, You want the cultivators from other planets to receive your message and understand the predicament of the deity ground and the other worlds, so that they can come to the deity ground to save you? To stop the war? To purify you? But there's one thing you don't know. A light year without attenuation is a sign of a void return cultivation civilization, but 100 light years without attenuation is a sign of a deity-level civilization, which surpasses the Tao reunion and the tribulation transcendence energy civilizations. Zhang Tian revealed a hint of ridicule and said, You used your intelligence to raise the cultivation civilization of the ancient Earth from the soul formation level to the deity level. You're really capable. You seem to understand something. The Golden Crow ancient emperor said as he scrutinized Zhang Tian. It seems that no living being on ancient Earth or the deity ground has ever reached the void return realm. Only a return to void stage civilization can break through space and travel across galaxies. Zhang Tian said indifferently, To put it simply, a civilization without return to void stage power is not enough to pose a threat to other cultivation civilizations. At the very least not in the short term. It's just like how an ant can't swim across the ocean. How can it infringe on the interests of the creatures on the other side? However, an immortal level civilization is beyond the Tao integration stage and the tribulation transcendence stage. You can dominate this level of the universe, conquer many star fields and even sweep across many galaxies. You can even break the barrier between worlds, surpass this level of the universe and ascend to a higher level of civilization. When you fired the cannon at the sun, it's like a 3-year-old child pretending to be an adult, holding a shiny but powerless stick. He broke into a battlefield full of powerful cultivators and claimed that he was going to kill all of them. The other cultivators didn't know the truth. They thought the child was a threat to their lives, so they attacked without hesitation and killed him. They killed him with a snap of their fingers. So, the extraterrestrial demons received your signal and confirmed the location of the deity ground and the ancient Earth. They traveled across the universe and were going to destroy the deity ground, the heavenly kingdom and the West Earth. I thought a more powerful cultivation civilization would be kinder and friendlier. The Golden Crow ancient emperor remained silent for a long time before he let out a bitter laugh. But I didn't expect the extraterrestrial demons to be even more terrifying than the ancient cultivators. They were here to kill, to wipe out civilizations. Killing is in their nature. As a result, the extraterrestrial demons invaded and the star destroyers descended. Countless living beings in the deity land and the ancient earth were plunged into misery and suffering. The flames of war continued. Thus, the age of fallen immortals and the twilight of the gods began. When the ancient cultivators accepted the reality of their defeat, Emperor Zhongli began to wander the universe. The deity ground and the multidimensional worlds moved to the South Gate Galaxy. Where did the extraterrestrial demons come from? You should know the answer to that, right? Jiang Tian asked an important question. The Big Dipper. The Golden Crow ancient emperor pondered for a moment and said, "What? There's life in the Big Dipper?" The extraterrestrial demons that invaded Earth in the ancient times came from there. Jiang Tian was startled again. The Milky Way was getting more and more lively. This was a desolate galaxy in the first place. It couldn't be compared to the Central Galaxy. In his previous life, Jiang Tian didn't want to travel or cultivate there. Jiang Tian had thought that only the 2 planets in the South Gate had life and civilization, but the Big Dipper also had life. Dubhe, Merak, Fekta, Migrez, Alioth, Mizar and Alcade were only 70 to 120 light-years away from the solar system. From the perspective of mortals and even from the perspective of Jiang Tian's current cultivation, this distance was naturally extremely far. But in terms of the dimensions of the universe or the energy of the cultivation civilizations that had reached the void returning and Tao reunion level, 100 light-years was really too short. I'm a sinner. Because of my mistake, I attracted the extraterrestrial demons and caused a disaster. Countless creatures died because of it. I feel guilty and I want to help you. But I don't know much about them. I can't help you much anymore. The Golden Crow ancient emperor seemed to have gone back in time and sighed. I committed an unforgivable crime back then by attracting the extraterrestrial demons. After I realized it, I repented and wanted to make up for my mistakes. I fought side by side with the late Emperor Zhongli and Ao Emperor Wuchang, fearlessly and bravely making great contributions. But I didn't dare to admit it. They didn't know why I was so brave and thought I was a hero. In fact, I even wanted to die on the battlefield earlier so that I wouldn't have to suffer that kind of torture. Later, when the interstellar wandering started, Ao Wuchang found out the truth about me attracting the extraterrestrial demons, so he was furious and turned against me. But in the end, Ao Wuchang let me go after slashing me with his sword because of my merits. The war with the Ruins Emperor had already broken out at that time. All in all, you have to be careful of the Big Dipper. Because of the migration of the worlds in the deity ground and the existence of the deity trap array, Earth doesn't have much spirit chi left. It's no longer attractive to the advanced cultivation civilizations. But I'm still worried that they'll come back one day. The universe is like a dark forest. Everyone is a hunter and also a prey. Their only goal is to survive, hide and destroy the enemy. Right now, ancient Earth is no longer attractive or threatening to the civilizations of a higher level. But a cautious hunter will never let go of any possible threat. It's like a newborn tiger cub who knows when it will grow up to eat people. The Golden Crow ancient emperor said a lot more. Jiang Tian had mixed feelings after hearing his story. He sighed and said, "Senior, I'm going to war with the Ruins Emperor now. Why don't you let me help you dissolve the absolute heaven sword scar and repair your body? When you return, we'll break through the clouds and fight the Ruins Emperor to take back the deity ground." "Forget it." The Golden Crow ancient emperor shook his head and said sadly, "I'm still a long way from the void return realm. But I'm old and have lived for too long. Even if I condense my blood and stop my lifespan, I've reached the limit of my lifespan. Even if I repair the absolute heaven sword scar, I won't live for long. Besides, I can't face my mistakes. The deity ground used to be so prosperous and brilliant. Now it's become an interstellar wanderer, occupied and enslaved. It's all my fault." He looked up at the sky. His eyebrows, beard and lips were trembling. Tears rolled in his eyes. "I've been waiting for an opportunity. Now it's here. I can go with them without worry. Xing Emperor Zhongli's predecessors Wuchang, Jiao Rui and my brothers. The sinner Luya has finally come to redeem himself." Chapter 1449. Sensing that Luya was determined to die, Jiang Tian sighed but didn't stop her. Life was precious. Even ants would try to survive. However, some people's lives were too dark and the burden in their hearts was too heavy to bear. Maybe death was really a relief. Kong Techu, take it. The Golden Crow ancient emperor activated the divine treasures in his body. A god with a bird's head and a human body surrounded by the true fire of the sun slowly appeared and walked towards Zhang Tian step by step. That was his god. It was another life beyond the physical body and the nascent soul realm. It was condensed with all his cultivation, essence, qi and mind energy. The power and bloodline of a soul formation grand cultivator were all gathered there. The god with a bird's head and a human body turned into a stream of light and went into Zhang Tian's golden core, making the golden core rumble and tremble. His cultivation level rose endlessly. At this moment, Wu Shujian's eyes were red with envy and he wished he could replace him. That was the god of a soul formation overlord and he gave it all to Kong Teichu. This kid had reached the sky in a single bound. Stepping into the soul formation realm was only a matter of seconds. Senior, although you've made a big mistake, I hope you can let it go and rest in peace. Zhang Tian's body trembled slightly. The Dharma power there was too strong and his body couldn't withstand it. He sighed and said, "It doesn't matter if I let it go or not. I'll die and my consciousness will disappear. This is the only thing I can do for you. This is the creation substance. There's still a lot left. I'll give it all to you." The Golden Crow ancient emperor nodded with a smile. At this moment his aura began to decline rapidly from the soul formation realm to the golden core realm, the foundation establishment realm and finally, Immortal. At this moment his waist was hunched over and he was trembling. His red hair and beard had turned white and his aura was declining. He was on the verge of death like a candle in the wind. He was just an ordinary old man. He flicked his finger. From his storage bag, a lump of creation substance that could not stop twisting and transforming flew towards Zhang Tian. He said, "It can help you create 2 bodies. Most importantly, it can prolong your life." Wu Shujian clenched his fists even tighter, and blood almost spurted out from his eyes. In the Alpha Centauri star system, as long as one did not reach the peak of the soul formation stage, one would be in danger of dying at any time. With the creation material, one could rebuild one's physical body. As long as one's divine soul was not destroyed, it was equivalent to having a second life. At this moment he was doing his best to control his desire to snatch it, because he knew that he was too far away from Zhang Tian's strength. Only death awaited him if he tried to snatch it. Zhang Tian did not waste any time. He took it and tossed it into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. "You can have the annihilation flame bead too." A benevolent smile appeared on Lu Ye's face. "I know you want to use it to strengthen your fire elemental constitution and improve your fire elemental cultivation. This bead, together with the Fusang divine tree I cultivated, the 3-legged golden crows, the 10 incarnations and my natal deity, are enough to push your fire elemental golden core to the nascent soul level or even higher." The annihilation flame bead emitted a bright light and slowly floated towards Zhang Tian. As for the golden crow ancient emperor Lu Ye, after losing the last bit of nourishment from the pearl, his skin first turned dark and gray. Then it began to crumble like broken porcelain, like withered leaves floating in the wind. In the end, even his muscles, organs and bones were peeled off layer by layer and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. A soul formation cultivator used his own Tao fragments to resist the erosion and suppression of the world. But once he lost his power, he would be eroded by time, just like an antique that had been sealed for 10,000 years being oxidized in an instant. The moment he completely disappeared, the void began to wail and thunder rumbled. Ghosts and deities cried and wailed. For some unknown reason, the countless living beings in the heavenly grotto felt a sharp pain in their hearts. They beat their chests with all their might and sang loudly. Nascent soul cultivators touched Dharma laws, while soul formation cultivators were formed by the grand Tao of the world. Every soul formation grand cultivator could sense the grand Tao and resonate with the world. When they died, the world would also sense it and feel uneasy as if its own son had died. If he died in the place where he became a Tao master, the entire solar system would feel it. There might even be major changes in the world or star phenomena such as sunspots. The Golden Crow ancient emperor also came from the universe. The stars around him and the world had already changed, but the grotto heaven within a 100-mile radius was shaking. Lu Ye, the Golden Crow ancient emperor, finally died. He could also be the last ancient sage who had lived for a long time. Now he had also fallen. His history was also buried in the vast passage of time. Even though Zhang Tian had cultivated for 10,000 years and had a heart of stone, he couldn't help but feel a bit sad when he looked back at the life of the Golden Crow ancient emperor. The Golden Crow ancient emperor was an extremely radical and idealist. He wanted to stop the war in the three worlds and rebuild order and civilization when he saw the collapse of the world, the continuous flames of war and the suffering of people. However, he had stared at the abyss for too long, so he was deeply immersed in it. He thought that human nature was evil and was completely desperate. He used the sun to increase the power of the communication Dharma artifact and gave out the coordinates of the deity ground and the ancient earth, which attracted the heavenly fiends. He was the representative of the descendant sect, who looked forward to the arrival of the heavenly fiends. He had once gathered countless grand cultivators and built an army of cultivators to prepare for the arrival of the heavenly fiends. He might even secretly fight with the Lord of the Heavenly Courts. When the heavenly fiends really arrived and showed their hostility, starting a great battle to occupy the deity ground, he finally understood. He didn't attract a savior but a disaster. However, he had already made a big mistake. Time couldn't be turned back and history couldn't be reversed. He wanted to be redeemed, so he fought against the heavenly fiends to make up for his mistakes. He didn't care about his own safety and was fearless of death, trying to fight for a chance of survival for the ancient cultivation civilization. He was once valued by the ancient saints. In the end, his actions of attracting the heavenly fiends were discovered and he was despised by the cultivators in the world. Ao Huang cut off all ties with him and killed him with a slash, sealing him there. Then he met Zhang Tian, who came from the ancient earth. In order to atone for his sins and find relief, he didn't hesitate to commit suicide and gave all his power and resources to Zhang Tian. Ah! Zhang Tian heaved a sigh. He didn't know what to say. An old saying came to his mind. There had never been a savior in the world, nor an immortal emperor. If you can't do something, you should do something for yourself. Don't rely on external forces because that's something you can't control at all. Fellow Daoist Zhou Xian, please protect me. Zhang Tian cupped his fists and said sincerely, I'll never forget your kindness. He trusts me so much. Wu Shujian was stunned. Then he cupped his fists and said, It's my honor to protect Tai Chu. Zhang Tian sat cross-legged and closed his eyes like an old monk. He started to refine the Fusang divine tree and countless three-legged golden crows. At this time Wu Shujian suddenly realized something. Fuck. This is a sealed grotto heaven. How can anyone barge in and disturb him? Besides, he's trying to break through the level of the fire element. I'm a sword cultivator. I can't help him when he's in trouble. He doesn't need me to protect him at all. He clearly thinks that even if I use all my power when he's about to break through, I won't be able to hurt him at all. That's too much. Kang Teichu, you've gone too far. Realizing this, Wu Shujian felt both ashamed and angry. It was as if Fairy Yao Yu was humiliated by Zhang Tian. He gritted his teeth in anger. Flying swords that had been refined to the size of needles appeared behind him silently. He was eager to try. He walked around Zhang Tian a few times to find a loophole in Zhang Tian's defense. Chapter 1450. Boom. When Zhang Tian started to refine the ancient Fusang tree, the terrifying aura of the true sun flame exploded in Zhang Tian's body. Instantly the palace shook, the mountains trembled and the sun and the moon boiled. Like a raging wave, the flame essence swept out. Swish. Wu Shujian was knocked dozens of miles away and fell on the ground like a dead dog. His nose was bleeding. His eyes were filled with fear. Then he wiped the blood from his nose and said bitterly, Fellow Daoist Tai Chu, can't you give me a heads up the next time you release your aura? At this moment he didn't even think about sneaking an attack on Zhang Tian. It was too terrifying and too strong. Just the aura of the ancient Fusang tree that had burst out naturally and had not been refined had shaken him to the point that 3 of his ribs were broken. If Kang Teichu had only used 10% of his power, he would have died on the spot. Before he heard Zhang Tian's answer, he was shocked to see that Zhang Tian's aura began to rise rapidly. Beams of flame light shot up into the sky like smoke signals, as if they were going to break through the heavens and burn down the ancient bronze palace. Zhang Tian had stepped into a terrifying realm. Zhang Tian had only refined the Fusang tree and a few golden crows, and his red bird divine body had reached the perfected level. He wasn't far away from the transcendent state. In fact, the golden crows were fire divine birds deep in the universe. They weren't as powerful as the red bird, but they weren't far away. Besides, those Fusang tree and the golden crows had been nurtured by Luya for 10,000 years. During that long history, They had swallowed the essence of the sun and the moon, heavenly treasures, blood of nascent soul cultivators and grand cultivators. The energy contained in them was too strong. Keep going. Zhang Tian's gaze was firm. The divine disk, which was as bright as a galaxy, slowly rotated inside his body and let out a sound like a tsunami. The vermilion bird's shadow on the divine disk that looked like a galaxy started to solidify. The true essence of the fire element was burning in his body like a river. In terms of cultivation, his true essence was comparable to that of a nascent soul heavenly lord. Might even be more powerful. However, Zhang Tian was still not satisfied. When Zhang Tian began to refine the essence, blood and quintessential essence of the 10 avatars of ancient Empress Marquis Luo, like a volcanic eruption, the fire elemental energy soared into the sky. Even the heavenly abode was blasted open several spatial cracks. That kind of terrifying aura made Wu Shujian tremble in fright, retreating again and again. It's too terrifying. It's clearly the strengthening of the golden core stage, but it surpasses the nascent soul stage. Wu Shujian felt a chill run down his spine. He had a wide circle of friends and had seen many seniors and young talents break through, but none of them were even 1/10 of Zhang Tian's. Within a radius of 100 miles, the entire cave was trembling and rumbling. The Fusang divine trees and three-legged golden crows instantly withered and turned into spiritual energy that surged into Zhang Tian's return of the Taotai vortex. The vortex was like a black hole that devoured all the fire elemental energy in a frenzy. This huge tremor even affected the ancient demon abyss. Even though Zhang Tian was in a different space, the process of breaking through was too powerful. In the ancient demon abyss, the temperature suddenly rose as though there was a huge volcano that was about to erupt. Many plants withered instantly. The rushing current valley and many hot springs dried up instantly. Many violent demon beasts, even with golden core strength, were trembling in fright. They fled frantically out of the ancient demon abyss. This included Qiliqui, Ao Jiao, Baizhe, Longpajuan, and the others who were guarding this place. They retreated again and again until they were hundreds of miles away. At this moment, I feel that the pressure has surpassed that of a nascent soul stage heavenly lord, or even 10 heavenly lords. Everyone was shocked. At this moment, they felt that Zhang Tian's power was several times stronger than that of Chancellor Kumu and Qin Shuang. They could not help but sigh. The Golden Crow ancient emperor's inheritance was too rich. However, they did not know that Zhang Tian had already obtained the Golden Crow ancient emperor's deity and 10 avatars. The Golden Crow ancient emperor was originally at the soul formation realm and his 10 avatars were also at the nascent soul realm. If Zhang Tian didn't need to form a chaotic divine infant, if he didn't have such high expectations for himself, and if he didn't purposely pursue cultivation, he could have pushed himself to the divine transformation realm. Rumble. When he started to refine the deity, the pores on Zhang Tian's body shot out hundreds of feet of true sun fire, filling the entire grotto heaven. The shadows of the golden crows flew up and down, chirping happily. Their voices pierced through the clouds as though they were going to resound in 9 heavens and 10 worlds. At this moment, Zhang Tian was not human at all. He was more like a bright sun, dazzling and scorching hot. He could burn the land, burn the mountains, boil the sea, refine the stars and shatter the moon. Boom. When Zhang Tian finally refined that deity's essence energy and swallowed it in one gulp, Zhang Tian's expression changed. The unimaginable essence of the true sun fire exploded in Zhang Tian's body. At this moment his entire body suddenly expanded and became dozens of feet tall. His body, which was completely formed by the vermilion bird true fire, cracked like broken porcelain and almost exploded. The bloodline of the Golden Crow ancient emperor was indeed inferior to the vermilion bird divine body. However, he had cultivated for 10,000 years after all. The deity that was born from the soul formation realm of the orthodox path contained endless and terrifying essence. It was too terrifying. Bang bang bang. Zhang Tian's body was still expanding. 100 feet, 1,000 feet, 1,000 feet. In the end he reached the top of the grotto heaven as if he was going to explore another space. It's too scary. Wu Shujian was so scared that his face turned pale and he trembled. This was not Zhang Tian's Dharma form, but a physical body of an avatar. It was very real and condensed. In front of Zhang Tian's huge body, Wu Shujian felt that he was just an ant or a cockroach. Jiang Tian only needed to extend a finger and he could squash him to death. Perhaps he had thought of the 10 avatars of the Golden Crow ancient emperor. At this moment Wu Shujian gradually understood, or rather saw it clearly. Jiang Tian's divine body and Dharma form weren't Dharma forms at all, but avatars and avatars. They were as powerful as the original body and even had independent consciousness. Thinking of this, he felt even more terrified. Avatars and avatars had always been the standard for void return overlords. Only the top soul formation overlords could barely make it with the help of external treasures. However, Jiang Tian was a freak. He was only a nascent soul cultivator, but he had 9 avatars. Most importantly, these avatars were all different. It was really strange. Indeed, his guess seemed to have been confirmed. A giant winged dragon separated from Jiang Tian's body. It held the stone cauldron of creation and placed it on top of Jiang Tian's head, letting down the aura of the beginning of all things. That was Jiang Tian's earth-winged dragon divine body, which was protecting him. A chaotic aura spread as if the world had just been created and all things were born. The cracks on Jiang Tian's vermilion bird true fire were quickly mended. Also, the vermilion bird true fire started to shrink rapidly. 1,000 feet, 100 feet, 100 feet. Kong Teichu's methods are amazing. He was almost blown up just now, but he forcefully expanded his body and covered the golden crow's energy and fire. Wu Shujian's heart raced as he watched, and he clicked his tongue in wonder. Now the aura of this strange stone cauldron turned into the aura of the vermilion bird and strengthened his body, suppressing the golden crow's energy and fire. Although he had figured out the key to Jiang Tian's breakthrough, as for how Jiang Tian did it, it was not something he could guess. All of this was unheard of, unseen before. When Jiang Tian returned to the size of a normal person, his flaming body also gradually returned to normal. The fire was extinguished and his skin was as clear as jade. He had black hair and black eyes which made him look like a mortal. Kong Teichu must have cultivated his vermilion bird body to perfection and transcended. Wu Shujian had just been affected by the flames and his face was covered in ashes. His clothes were tattered and he was in a sorry state. Seeing this, his face was filled with envy. Chapter 1451. Wu Shujian tidied his clothes and cast out a cleansing talisman to wash away the bloodstains and black dust. Once again he returned to his handsome appearance with red lips, white teeth, delicate features and white clothes fluttering in the wind. He walked over and clasped his hands together. He prayed with a joyful face, "Congratulations, Brother Tai Chu. You've improved a lot. Your Dharma power is deep and your life is long." Bang! Suddenly a loud noise was heard. Jiang Tian's body actually directly exploded into pieces. His precious metal-like bones, his flame-like true essence, and his mercury-like blood all collapsed at the same time, like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers. Like a nuclear explosion, everything in 100-mile radius shook and the entire grotto heaven seemed to collapse. Wu Shujian was knocked dozens of miles away again and he kept vomiting blood. However, Wu Shujian's eyes flashed with a hint of schadenfreude. He clutched his chest and struggled to stand up. Tiny flying swords that looked like silver fish appeared behind him. He thought to himself, good. He's gone mad and his body has exploded. I'll have a chance to ambush him. At the golden core level, although the golden core was not destroyed, the body could be reconstructed. But every time it was reconstructed it had to pay a great price. If part of it was destroyed by the enemy, the body would be lost forever. If only the golden core was left, most cultivators would rather be reincarnated. Otherwise, it would take hundreds of thousands of years to reconstruct the body. With Jiang Tian's current power, if his body collapsed, it would take a few hundred years for him to recover. Just as Wu Shujian silently approached Jiang Tian and was about to start a massacre, the situation in the field underwent a strange change. The blood, bones, flesh and blood in the air were gradually reconstructed under the guidance of an invisible force. The cauldron of myriad origin even released countless mother qi to nourish Jiang Tian's body and make up for his injuries. The cauldron of myriad origin was said to be the first spirit stone when the universe was first created. It had the power to nourish the world and make up for a human being. It was too easy. After being repaired, Jiang Tian's red bird true fire divine body was even more perfect. Boom! Rings of terrifying air currents swept out in all directions, as if a hurricane had passed through. The ancient bronze palaces couldn't withstand his pressure and were torn to pieces like paper. Jiang Tian's body was perfect. Even though Wu Shujian had once roamed the ruins of immortality and seen many chosen and monstrous geniuses with powerful constitutions, he was certain that none of them were as perfect as Jiang Tian. Even the immortal body of a nascent soul stage cultivator isn't so perfect. Wu Shujian sighed, feeling envy, jealousy and hatred. However, this was not the end. Jiang Tian's vermilion bird primordial fire body was once again bursting apart. The spiritual energy contained in the golden crow ancient emperor Lu Ye's deity was too exuberant. In addition to the Fusang pure wood and the three-legged golden crow, the energy contained in the many clones had reached an unimaginable level. They weren't willing to be refined so easily. They were constantly suffering from backlash and exploding. This time, Jiang Tian's body exploded even more thoroughly. Only his head was left. The vermilion bird divine body turned into surging spiritual essence and disappeared. Rumble. The chaotic origin stone cauldron spun and the energy of the beginning of chaos flowed and seemed to be able to nourish and strengthen Jiang Tian's divine body. Rumble. Jiang Tian exploded and reformed again and again. After 9 times in total, the vermilion bird primordial fire divine body finally reached the transcendence level. At that moment, countless tiny vermilion bird particles gathered together like dust and sand and finally formed Jiang Tian out of thin air. At this time, the vermilion bird primordial fire divine body had already transcended and was not much different from the original body. However, there was a vermilion bird pattern in the center of his forehead, like a burning flame. And all of this was external. The internal changes were even more fundamental. At this moment, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird golden core had expanded to an unparalleled level. It was too vast and kept rushing to the nascent soul stage and even becoming a deity. How terrifying! At the very least, his fire elemental cultivation has already reached the nascent soul realm, or even the soul formation realm. Wu Shujian screamed as though he had seen a devil. In the ruins of immortality, those who could reach the nascent soul realm before the age of 100, or even just needed to form a nascent soul, were rare existences. They could look down on the world, enter the God of War role, join the 100 Moons Academy, and even serve in the ruins Emperor's Palace. And the Jiang Tian in front of him had the hope of reaching the soul formation realm. If he reaches the soul formation realm, he might really defy the heavens and have the hope of sweeping through the ruins Emperor's Palace. Wu Shujian gave himself a fright when that thought popped up in his mind. From the moment he was born, generations of his ancestors had told him that the ruins emperor was supreme, wise, and mighty. He was invincible in every battle and was undefeated in every attack. He had always believed that. But today he actually had such a thought. Finally, Jiang Tian could only conjure the myriad origin stone cauldron and use the endless thick earth chains to suppress him, firmly suppressing him to the nascent soul realm. The divine disk formed by Jiang Tian's 9 golden cores kept rumbling and trembling as though it was constantly being hammered by an invisible hammer. When Jiang Tian's vermilion bird divine body reached the transcendence realm, the divine disk finally stabilized. The vermilion bird phantom had already become a true seal. An extremely solid nomological true seal. This meant that Jiang Tian's vermilion bird golden core had successfully formed a nascent soul. Jiang Tian's divine disk's 3rd revolution was finally completed. And at that moment, Jiang Tian looked up at the grotto heaven barrier. Lightning tribulation. Jiang Tian's gaze was focused as he sighed softly. This time, Jiang Tian had met the golden crow ancient emperor and obtained his deity, the ancient Fusang tree and many golden crows. It was such a huge opportunity that it was like a poor kid winning the lottery. Up to now, Jiang Tian had yet to refine the annihilation flame bead, but he had already completed the 3rd revolution of the divine disk. The vermilion bird nomological true seal was formed, and his golden core evolved into a nascent soul. The annihilation flame bead could be stored as resources for the next breakthrough in evolution. Could even be used as a dharma treasure. Jiang Tian's golden core and Taotia's nascent soul didn't trigger the lightning tribulation because the state of the golden core at that time was the real nascent soul. And this time, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird true essence was close to the soul formation level. It was impossible for him to not trigger the lightning tribulation. Boom. Thunderclouds formed out of thin air, almost filling the entire sky above the grotto heaven. There were 81 astral fire divine thunders, Wood divine thunders, Xianxia green thunders, and all kinds of lightning tribulations formed in the sky. This is the scale of a nascent soul lightning tribulation. It's terrifying. Wu Shujian was shocked and trembled. He didn't know if Jiang Tian could survive the crisis. Great. Jiang Tianyi wasn't afraid at all. He directly used the lightning slaughter divine body and the Taotia's returning laws to devour the balls of lightning that were like rivers and dragons of the 9 heavens. If he couldn't withstand it, he would let the lightning tribulation strike him. He stood motionlessly in the vast lightning, allowing the vermilion bird divine body to be refined. In the end, the flames, the vermilion bird and the golden crow disappeared from Jiang Tian's body and gradually transformed into a mortal body. This also meant that Jiang Tian's vermilion bird divine body had finally reached the state of transcendence and became a real avatar. The moment he completely became an ordinary person was when he was at his strongest and weakest. Just as Jiang Tian's face revealed a smile. Crack! A bright blade aura suddenly appeared 100 meters behind Jiang Tian. It flashed across the sky and slashed at Jiang Tian's chest. The blade aura appeared in a strange way. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere without any signs, and there weren't any terrifying energy waves when it slashed at Chen Fan. However, the moment it hit Jiang Tian's back, its power suddenly exploded. An extremely violent energy shook the entire grotto heaven, as if it were a super-nuclear explosion. The blade aura was 10,000 feet long, and it even created a 10-kilometer deep abyss on the ground. The entire grotto heaven seemed to be about to collapse. Swish! Jiang Tian swayed his body and moved a few miles forward, but he was still a bit too late. A large amount of blood splattered down from the sky. A 1-meter-long wound appeared on his body. The wound extended from his shoulder to his ribs, and his back was cut open, exposing his organs and bones. Under this vicious blade, Jiang Tian was almost chopped into 2 halves.